Chapter 44. My daughter is also well suited to Lu Chongqing under Wuxia Valley a villa. What? Lu Chongqing has advanced to a middle-grade first-rank talisman master? I remember that it has only been 2 years since he became an elementary talisman master, right? While handling affairs, Lu Yuanding, upon hearing the report from Lu Bo, showed an astonished look on his face. He hadn't paid much attention to Lu Changsheng's progress in talisman making for some time. All he knew was that the monthly talisman-making tasks assigned to Lu Chongqing had always been perfectly completed. Unexpectedly, Lu Chongqing was actually able to draw middle-grade first-rank talismans and had advanced from an elementary talisman master to a middle-grade first-rank talisman master. Yes, Patriarch, it will be precisely 2 years in 16 more days since Lu Chongqing became an elementary talisman master, Lu Bo confirmed. I couldn't believe it when I first heard the news either. So I asked Lu Chongqing to demonstrate by drawing a fire cloud talisman in front of me. This is the middle-grade first-rank talisman, fire cloud talisman, Lu Chongqing drew. Lu Bo nodded and took out a talisman saying so. He had anticipated that Lu Yuanding might be quite surprised and somewhat incredulous upon hearing the news. That's why he had Lu Chongqing draw a fire cloud talisman on the spot. Indeed, it's a middle-grade talisman, the fire cloud talisman. The talent of Lu Chongqing in talisman making is truly... Lu Yuanding took a deep breath and then slowly exhaled. He was somewhat at a loss for words to describe Lu Changsheng's talent for talisman making. From a novice who had never been exposed to talisman making, he explored on his own and in a year and a half became an elementary talisman master. Then in just about 2 years he had gone from an elementary talisman master to a middle-grade first-rank talisman master. It was quite astounding. He knew that his eldest daughter, Lu Miaoge, was very talented in talisman making. But even she took about 3 years to advance from a lower-grade first-rank talisman master to a middle-grade talisman master. Moreover, compared to Lu Chongqing, Lu Miaoge not only had better conditions but also received instruction and guidance from a knowledgeable teacher. When compared like that, Lu Changsheng's talent in talisman making seemed even more remarkable. If Lu Chongqing knew how difficult it was to advance from a lower grade to a middle grade talisman master, that even Lu Miaoge took 3 years, he probably would have expected it to take another year and a half. He had thought that since it took him only a year and a half to go from a novice to an elementary talisman master, advancing to middle grade in 2 years' time was reasonable. All right, go inform the other elders of the clan and schedule a small meeting for tomorrow. Let's hear what they have to suggest and how they plan to deal with Lu Chongqing. Lu Yuanding put down the fire cloud talisman in his hands, tapped his fingers on the table and gave the order. Compared to an elementary talisman master, a middle-grade first-rank talisman master already warranted the Lu family's attention. Especially given the talent in talisman making that Lu Chongqing was now displaying, it was very likely that he could become a second-grade talisman master in the future. A second-grade talisman master, even a foundation establishment great cultivator, would have to show some respect. Alas, it is a pity that Lu Chongqing is not of our Lu family's bloodline. After all, he is a disciple from another clan. Lu Yuanding sighed deeply. Even though he had always told Lu Chongqing that he was one of us, our own, he couldn't fully consider him as one of their own since he was not of the Lu family's bloodline. Qingzhou Valley, Qingzhou Hall. Inside the simple yet elegant council hall, incense burned slowly in the censer. Lu Yuanding sat in the chief seat, with several high-ranking members of the Lu family and clan elders seated on both sides of the long table. I believe all the elders here are somewhat familiar with the situation regarding Lu Chongqing, so I wonder what your thoughts are, Lu Yuanding said, looking towards the elders. With such talent in talisman making and the future hope of becoming a second-grade talisman master, he must be employed for the benefit of our Lu family. We cannot allow him to leave our Lu family. One of the elders spoke, his hair gray with age. He was the great elder of the Lu family, with the strength of the pinnacle of qi cultivation, responsible for the family finances and assisting the family head in managing the clan. Family head, this child has been with our Lu family for just over 4 years. Does he truly hold loyalty to our family? A slim elder with graying temples inquired. He was the 3rd elder of the Lu family, responsible for matters relating to Qingzhou, spiritual fields and spiritual medicine among others. Judging by Lu Changsheng's behavior over these years, one can see he is a person with no great ambitions. content with a life of modest wealth. As for our Lu family, although he may not be completely loyal, he has a certain sense of belonging to us. With the previous contract, the likelihood of Lu Chongqing leaving our Lu family is currently not high. Lu Yuanding began to speak. I have heard that Lu Chongqing has only one hobby, which is marrying and having children. Not satisfied with marrying 9 commoner women from our Lu family, he even brought back 3 women from the secular world to be his wives and concubines, one of whom possesses a spiritual root. It seems that Lu Chongqing knows he has no hope in cultivation, so he pins his hopes on the next generation, hoping to father several children with spiritual roots. By good chance my young granddaughter Miaoyi is 20 this year. She's sensible and understanding, and also has an 8th grade spiritual root. I am willing to marry this granddaughter to Lu Chongqing. In this way, Lu Chongqing would also truly become our Lu family's son-in-law. When the time comes, let my young granddaughter bear several children with spiritual roots for Lu Chongqing, and he will be completely tied to our Lu family. Plus, as Lu Chongqing has the Lu surname, the children he fathers will fit in well with our Lu family, becoming part of the Lu family disciples. At this moment, an old man with white hair and a youthful face began to speak. He was the 5th elder of the Lu family, a wine master in charge of the Lu family's spiritual wine business. As these words were spoken, the expressions of the various elders and clan seniors shifted subtly. Sitting in the seat of honor, Lu Yuanding felt a stirring in his heart upon hearing these words. He had quite a few children, but only 3 of them possessed a spiritual root. His eldest daughter, Lu Miaoga, was the one who gave him the least trouble. She was not only understanding but also diligent in cultivation and talented in talisman making. However, his second daughter, Lu Miaohuan, was a source of concern for him. Although she possessed a 6th grade spiritual root, she was rather frivolous and did not take cultivation seriously. Furthermore, since he became the patriarch of the Lu family, he had been somewhat neglectful in disciplining his children, leading to his daughter's somewhat arrogant and willful character. Within the Lu family, it was still acceptable, given his status as her father. But this arrogance born from never having experienced hardship could lead to significant loss if she were to marry and he was no longer around. And if she did suffer a loss, it would likely be a considerable one. Now, hearing the words of the 5th elder, he suddenly conceived an idea. Why not marry his daughter Lu Miaohuan to Lu Chongqing? Through several encounters as well as the assessments by Uncle Fu and Lu Bo, he also felt Lu Chongqing was quite a decent person. Not only did he show exceptional talent in the area of talisman making, but he was also honest and steady. Though he had a fondness for women, resulting in many wives and children, he at least had not neglected his legitimate duties in talisman making. Moreover, according to the information he had, Lu Chongqing was very good to his wives and children, showing great concern for them regularly. With these considerations and knowing that Lu Chongqing came from a commoner's background and now that his secular family would likely have little to do with him, settling down at Qingzhou Mountain and becoming half a member of the Lu family, he wasn't worried about his daughter suffering any disadvantage after marrying. This thought solidified, and the more Lu Yuanding thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. He felt that Lu Chongqing would be a fine son-in-law. With Lu Chongqing possessing such a talent for talisman making, it must not be wasted. He should be properly nurtured, he mused. I am also willing to marry my granddaughter Miaoyun to Lu Chongqing, and at the same time instruct him in talisman, ensuring he is wholly devoted to our Lu family, adding a 2nd grade talisman master to our family. At this point, a woman who appeared to be in her 30s or 40s spoke out. She was the 4th elder of the Lu family, a top-level 1st grade talisman master, in charge of the Lu family's talismans. I also have a granddaughter. Another old woman with gray hair spoke up. Following the 5th elder's remarks, one elder and clan senior after another expressed their willingness to marry their descendants with spiritual roots to Lu Chongqing. Although the Lu family was a singular family unit, they were still individuals with their own interests to consider. To the elders and clan seniors, someone like Lu Chongqing, who was half a part of the Lu family and had shown such talent in talisman making, was naturally seen as a prized catch. They were very willing to marry off their descendants with spiritual roots to Lu Chongqing, because this meant effectively tying Lu Chongqing, a future 2nd-ranked talisman master, to their own branch of the family. Even if Lu Chongqing failed to become a second-ranked talisman master, escaping the status of a top-level first-grade talisman master would be unlikely. No matter what, it was a no-lose situation. Lu Yuanding, watching the continuous chirpings of the elders and clan seniors, also cleared his throat slightly and said, I think Miao Huan is also around the right age and would be quite a good match with Lu Chongqing. Chapter 45. Blind Date with the Second Young Lady under Wuntingyu Valley. Within an ancient, exquisitely unique small building. Father, you're actually making me marry that Lu Chongqing. You know as well as anyone that Lu Chongqing is incredibly lecherous. Not only has he married 9 women from our Lu family, but he also brings women from outside back home. I heard that not long ago he went out and brought back 2 seductive fox spirits. How can you make me marry such a man? A stunningly beautiful young woman around 18 or 19, dressed in a black gauze dress, angrily looked at the patriarch of the Lu family in front of her. Huaner, although Lu Chongqing may be a bit flirtatious, he is decent in other aspects. He's down to earth, treats his wives and concubines quite well, and is very considerate and caring, her father explained. Moreover, just yesterday, Lu Chongqing was promoted to a first-grade middle-grade talisman master. He has been with our Lu family for just over 4 years, only touching talisman making for 3.5 years. During those 3.5 years, our Lu family didn't bestow any special resources or training on him. Under such circumstances, his reaching the level of a first-grade middle-grade talisman master so quickly shows that he has a remarkable gift for talisman making, far surpassing your sister. Unless something unexpected happens, he's likely to become a second-ranked talisman master in the future. If you marry him, I will also rest assured. Lu Yuanding was earnestly trying to persuade his daughter. After the idea of having his daughter, Lu Miaohuan, marry Lu Chongqing came to him during a recent meeting, the more he thought about it, the more feasible it seemed. So once the meeting finished, he went to his daughter's residence to discuss the matter. He hoped to convince his daughter to marry Lu Chongqing. A first-grade middle-grade talisman master? Upon hearing this, Lu Miaohuan's beautiful eyes showed a hint of surprise. As a young lady of the Lu family, with her sister being a talisman master, she naturally knew how extraordinary it was for Lu Chongqing to become a first-grade middle-grade talisman master under such conditions. To call him a genius in talisman making was no exaggeration. No wonder her father wanted her to marry Lu Chongqing. If Lu Chongqing truly became a second-ranked talisman master one day, that status would make him a guest of honor wherever he went. Even if he didn't become a second-ranked talisman master, being a first-grade top-level talisman master was still quite remarkable. She was aware that the 4th elder who taught her sister talisman making was a first-grade top-level talisman master. He brought considerable stable profits to the Lu family every year and held a high status. But when she thought of all that Lu Chongqing had done, and how he had ogled her the first time she and her sister met him, she felt uncomfortable all over, unwilling. Seeing his daughter's reluctance, Lu Yuanding sighed and continued to persuade her. Huaner, your mother passed away early and your father hasn't really governed or scolded you much, but in this matter I truly have your best interests at heart. I hope you'll listen to me. This time Lu Chongqing has become a first-grade middle-grade talisman master, and in light of his fine performance over the years, our Lu family decided to marry a woman with the spiritual root to Lu Chongqing, truly incorporating him as one of our own. Quite a few of the elders and clan seniors want to marry their granddaughters to Lu Chongqing. This priority chance was still something I fought for you. You're also not getting any younger and should consider this matter. At this moment, Lu Yuanding was not the patriarch of the Lu family, but a father, somewhat wistful as he spoke. If Lu Miaohuan had been more promising like Lu Miaoge, he naturally wouldn't have worried about his daughter's marriage. After all, cultivators not marrying is quite a normal common occurrence. But Lu Chongqing only has a 9th-grade spiritual root and so many wives and concubines. Lu Miaohuan, hearing her father's words and seeing his attitude, pressed her lips together as she spoke. She hadn't expected that her father's permission for her to marry Lu Chongqing was actually an opportunity he had fought for. But upon reflection she could understand the rationale behind it. Qingzhou Mountain hosted hundreds of Lu family disciples. Although these disciples possessed spiritual roots, most of them had limited prospects and little hope for foundation establishment. When they reached a certain age, Many would have their marriages arranged by the family, joining with other cultivation families in the vicinity. This was how these cultivation families continued to develop and maintain a steady inflow of new blood. Lu Chongqing, having entered the Lu family as a live-in son-in-law, always living with the Lu family and showing good behavior, he was considered almost one of their own. Now that he displayed such talent in talisman making, it was only natural for the clan's elders to be very willing to marry a female disciple with a spiritual root to Lu Chongqing, tying him completely to the Lu family. The 9th grade spiritual root doesn't matter. With Lu Changsheng's talent in talisman making, as long as our Lu family is willing to invest in him, although foundation establishment may be out of reach, hoping to cultivate to the energy refinement late stage is still possible. A 2nd grade talisman master at the late stage of energy refinement would even earn a degree of respect from a foundation establishment great cultivator. As for wives and concubines, you needn't worry about that. Lu Changsheng's current wives are mere mortal women. If you marry him, you will naturally be his principal wife, and with your father here, how could I let you suffer any disadvantage? Seeing his daughter no longer being so obstinate, Lu Yuanding seized the opportunity to strike while the iron was hot. After listening to her father's words, Lu Miaohuan pursed her lips, remaining silent. In her mind, she recalled the Lu Chongqing she had met before, who suddenly didn't seem so detestable anymore. After all, with her charm, anyone who saw her would inevitably take a few more glances, especially a lecher like Lu Chongqing. Seeing his daughter like this, Lu Yuanding's face broke into a smile, knowing she had tacitly agreed. He gently proposed, "How about this, Miaohuan? Tomorrow I'll invite Lu Chongqing to the Bamboo Heart Lodge and you can meet him there?" Lu Miaohuan murmured a barely audible response. Lu Chongqing was in the backyard playing with the children. Having so many kids, he had built quite a few toys in the yard. There were swings, slides, seesaws, trampolines, wooden horses, toy cars, and so on. But at this moment, a group of little tykes was lining up to play flying with him. He was using the levitation skill to let the little ones fly around in the air. Or he would put the little ones on the wooden horses or toy cars and use the object manipulating technique to fly them around in the air, to the great delight of the little ones who screamed with joy. Just then Lu Chongqing heard one of his wives say that Lu Bo had come over. He immediately knew it must be the response to his becoming a 1st grade middle grade talisman master. He asked his wives to watch the children while he quickly went to the living room. "Lu Bo." Lu Chongqing greeted him with a slight bow. Not bad at all." Observing Lu Chongqing in front of him, Lu Bo suddenly nodded in approval. He had not paid much attention before, but now that he took a closer look, Lu Chongqing could indeed be considered a handsome talent. Lu Chongqing was somewhat puzzled by Lu Bo's looks and manner. "Lu Chongqing, the family head wants you to prepare well for tomorrow, to go to the Bamboo Heart Lodge for a marriage meeting," Lu Bo said with a smile. "What? The family head wants me to prepare for a marriage meeting at the Bamboo Heart Lodge tomorrow?" Upon hearing this, Lu Chongqing looked puzzled. He had been wondering if revealing his status as a 1st grade middle grade talisman master would lead to any improved treatment within the Lu family. He hadn't expected that the patriarch of the Lu family would actually want him to attend a marriage meeting. However, Lu Chongqing quickly realized that this marriage meeting was probably not a simple affair. Seeing Lu Changsheng's reaction, Lu Bo then cheerfully said, "That's right, due to your ascent to becoming a 1st grade middle grade talisman master and your performance over the years, the family head has decided to betroth his daughter to you." Upon hearing Lu Bo's words, Lu Chongqing was shocked and simultaneously overjoyed. The image of the dignified and fairy-like Miss Lu Miaoga immediately surfaced in his mind. But the next moment Lu Bo's words dispelled his fantasy. "Tomorrow you go meet her, perform well, and if it's settled, you will truly become one of the family. Don't you want children with spiritual roots? The 2nd miss has a 6th grade spiritual root, so if you marry her, the children you have in the future are very likely to inherit spiritual roots too," Lu Bo spoke with a chuckle. He already had a favorable opinion of Lu Chongqing. Now that the Lu family was considering fully integrating Lu Chongqing as one of their own, he felt even closer to Lu Chongqing, as if he were already family. Chapter 46, Blind Date Part 1. Miss. Lu Chongqing, hearing this, immediately realized he had thought too much. It was not the eldest Miss Lu Miaoga, but rather her younger sister. The one he had once seen at the heart of the bamboo lake, the black silk. It made sense after all. Lu Miaoge was not only beautiful and talented but also a talisman master. Under normal circumstances, how could the Lu family possibly marry her off, especially to him? But marrying off the second miss to him was no small matter either. After all, this second miss not only possessed a 6th grade spiritual root but was also the daughter of the Patriarch of the Lu family. It seemed his advancement to 1st grade middle grade talisman master and the display of his talent for talisman making had convinced the Lu family to invest heavily, intent on binding him completely to the Lu family. Thinking of that memorable pair of black silk high heels and long legs, Lu Chongqing nodded his head and cupped his hands, saying, "Lu Bo, I will make sure to arrive on time for the appointment tomorrow." Even if he guessed that the Lu family was trying to deepen the bond with him, to completely tie him to the Lu family, Lu Chongqing did not feel any repulsion. In fact, he was quite willing. It wasn't because of the second miss looks, or her black silk high heels and long legs. But rather his journey outside during the 3-year agreement made him realize that the world was far more dangerous and difficult than he had imagined. With his temperament he would have a hard time making his way in such a world. Not to mention he now had a family to look after. So Lu Chongqing had completely come to terms with his situation. Since he had the system of many sons and blessings, he would just honestly bide his time with the Lu family. Lurking until the children were numerous, grown up, and he had made a breakthrough in the foundation establishment stage, only then would he consider the future. Even though it was like living under someone else's roof because of his talent for talisman making, the Lu family had treated him well over the years since he moved to Qingzhou Valley. They were indeed a proper cultivation family. It was certainly safer than being alone outside. If he were to marry the daughter of the Patriarch of the Lu family this time, he would not only have a wife with a spiritual root, but he would also be truly seen as one of their own by the Lu family. He could then live in the Lu family more at ease without any worries for the future. As for leaving the Lu family, he still harbored thoughts of leaving and establishing himself independently, but that seemed quite far off for now and Lu Chongqing was too lazy to think too much about it. When that time came, if the Lu family treated him well, he would not mistreat them even if he decided to leave. Good. Lu Bo affectionately patted Lu Chongqing on the shoulder and said, "The matter with the second miss has already been settled by the family head, so as long as you perform well tomorrow, there shouldn't be any problems and the matter will be considered settled." Yes. Lu Chongqing nodded, acknowledging the words and seeing Lu Bo out the door. However, his mind involuntarily recalled Lu Miaohuan's noble and icy demeanor. Thinking of how he had been scolded for taking a couple of extra looks at the black silk, being chastised with "look again and I'll gouge out your eyes." He felt that the second miss might not be easy to serve, and the meeting tomorrow was really hard to predict. I hope the family head did settle things well and that the second miss has restrained her temperament a bit, not as bad as I imagined. Otherwise, even with a 6th grade spiritual root daughter of the family head, I would have to let it go. Lu Chongqing took a deep breath and let it out, returning to the courtyard. While he was quite willing to welcome this marriage, he was not about to lose his dignity and go begging to be married off, even if it meant having a 6th grade spiritual root for his child's mother. Setting aside his pride and dignity as someone with 4 wives, 6 concubines and 2 cherished mistresses, he really didn't have the mental spirit or energy to cater to someone temperamental. Adding such a wife to the inner courtyard could easily disturb the balance and peace of his harem and disrupt the proper family hierarchy. "Husband, did Lu Bo visit with news of some happiness?" At that moment one of his wives looked towards Lu Chongqing and inquired. "He, your husband has made a breakthrough in the talisman path recently and has been promoted to a 1st grade middle grade talisman master. So Lu Bo came over to discuss some matters with me," Lu Chongqing said. He did not mention that Lu Bo had come to discuss matters of a matchmaking engagement. After all, telling his wives that he was going on a blind date tomorrow would feel very awkward. That was something to be discussed only once it was certain. "What? My husband has been promoted to a middle grade 1st rank talisman master. My husband is truly remarkable. My husband has been promoted to a middle grade talisman master. Doesn't this mean he could become a 2nd grade talisman master in the future? My husband has worked hard these days." The other wives and concubines nearby also heard this and their beautiful eyes lit up with surprise and delight, as they looked admiringly at Lu Chongqing, their eyes filled with worship and love. Ever since Lu Chongqing became a talisman master, they too had learned something about the profession. They knew that each step forward was very difficult. Now that Lu Chongqing had advanced further, it meant that his status in the Lu family would also rise. And they too would bask in their husband's glory. Several children nearby, though not understanding the meaning, saw the expressions of their mothers and also joined in the clamor. Wow, Daddy is amazing. Daddy is so powerful. Lu Chongqing, witnessing this scene, couldn't help but smile on his face. It felt truly nice to be looked at with such admiration and love by his wives and children. It greatly satisfied his sense of male pride. That night. Afterward, Lu Chongqing held the women who were snuggling up next to him, tender and extraordinarily proactive tonight, and thought that he really needed to pay more attention to the aspect of the 100 refinements treasure body technique. The next morning, Lu Bo, as if worried that Lu Chongqing might forget or oversleep, came to call him. Lu Chongqing got up and, after a brief preparation, went with Lu Bo toward the Bamboo Heart Lodge. The Bamboo Heart Lodge was not far from the heart of Bamboo Lake, surrounded by green grass and blooming flowers, creating an exceptionally beautiful environment. Apart from the lively trading meet on the first day of the month, it was usually very quiet and peaceful. The second miss will arrive soon, just wait a moment. Actually, the second miss has quite a simple nature. Just be gentle with her and go along with what she says, Lu Bo said earnestly to Lu Chongqing before leaving. He went outside to keep watch to avoid anyone coming nearby and affecting the matchmaking meeting. After all, this matter was something that Lu Yuanding took very seriously and had entrusted to him. Lu Chongqing nodded at the words and sat down by the stone table in the courtyard, taking out a set of purple sand tea where to brew spiritual tea, calmly waiting. After about half an hour, Lu Chongqing heard a melodious and rhythmical tap-tap-tap sound. Looking towards the sound, he saw a tall and majestic figure as proud and aloof as a peacock, gracefully walking toward him. It was his matchmaking partner for the day, Lu Miaohuan. Today, Lu Miaohuan had also clearly dolled herself up, her face showing a delicate makeup. Dressed in a form-fitting dark gown interwoven with deep blue, decorated with twinkling stars that seemed to flow, as though she was draped in the night sky decked with stars, she was stunningly glamorous. Compared to the black gown with golden embroidery he had seen on her last time, this dark blue starry gown was much more conservative, revealing only her elegant white swan neck and a hint of her clavicle and delicate shoulder. Yet the curvaceous figure outlined under the gown still led one's thoughts astray. Tap tap tap, Lu Miaohuan walked elegantly, her black silk-clad legs occasionally visible beneath the hem of her gown. Her skirt hem above her beautifully shod feet in sumptuous high heels matched her gown, shimmering like the starry nebula, with every step echoing a crisp tap, leaving traces of starlight in their wake. Lu Chongqing simply watched her approach, one graceful step at a time. Beauty, after all, should be appreciated. If he were to ignore her deliberate preparation, not to properly enjoy it, would it not be a disservice to her efforts? It must be said, when beauty reaches a certain level, it's all about the carriage and grace. The second miss before him, with her tall and graceful figure, her face stunning and noble, radiated an aura of aloofness and dignity from within, a commanding presence that involuntarily captivated onlookers, inducing feelings of unworthiness. Yet at the same time that very aura could spark a strong desire to conquer. Lu Chongqing pays his respects to Miss Miaohuan. Lu Chongqing returned his gaze, stood up and greeted Lu Miaohuan with a bow, radiating a refined and cultured demeanor. Despite the stunning allure of the lady before him, striking a chord with his aesthetics, Lu Chongqing, after all, had weathered many storms and was greatly seasoned. He possessed the composure and mental spirit that came with his experience. Chapter 47. Matchmaking Part 2. I've kept you waiting. Lu Miaohuan's icy demeanor softened a bit as she gave Lu Chongqing a slight nod in greeting. Just now, as Lu Chongqing had been watching her, she had also been sizing him up. Perhaps because of their meeting today, her mindset was different and she found Lu Chongqing more handsome than she remembered. His facial features, when looked at individually, were not particularly delicate, but together they gave off a just right, harmonious vibe that elevated his attractiveness. He was very easy on the eyes and quite comfortable to look at. Coupled with Lu Changsheng's gentle gaze and composed, unruffled demeanor, she felt as if she were basking in the warmth of spring. As someone captivated by appearances, Lu Miaohuan, who initially harbored some resistance to marrying Lu Changsheng, now felt it wouldn't be unacceptable to marry him. Although Lu Changsheng's innate talents were lacking with just a 9th-grade spiritual root, his exceptional talent in talisman making and such handsome looks, he indeed possessed both talents and good looks. The only flaw, if one had to be mentioned, was he had too many wives and concubines. However, in that regard Lu Miaohuan was quite confident in herself. Not just the confidence of her status and family background, but also in her own looks and charm. She clearly caught the way Lu Changxing looked at her just now and she felt a bit proud inside. "I've just arrived myself," she said. Seeing that her attitude wasn't as bad as he had thought, Lu Changxing felt that the matchmaking could proceed. He picked up the teapot and took the initiative to pour Lu Miaohuan a cup of tea. "I didn't expect to meet Miss Miaohuan again in such a way. I apologize for my rudeness when we last met," Lu Changxing spoke, lifting his cup in a gesture similar to a toast. "I didn't expect you to remember that incident." Hearing Lu Changxing mention their last encounter, Lu Miaohuan's eyebrows lifted slightly. After all, her first meeting with Lu Changxing had not been very pleasant. It was mainly Lu Changxing's behavior at the time along with his reputation that left her with a poor impression. "Of course I remember. After witnessing Miss Miaohuan's extraordinary elegance, how could I forget? That matter has always lingered in my mind and each time I think of it, I find my rudeness inexcusable. Now, nearly 2 years later, I finally get to meet Miss Miaohuan again and can express my apologies in person." Lu Changxing wore a sincere expression but began to spout nonsense. After all, Lu Bo had said, "This second young miss may have a bit of a spoiled nature, but she is still rather innocent." Flattering words and playing along with her conversation should do the trick. That's all it took. For the sake of having a child with a 6th-grade spiritual root, Lu Changxing was willing. "I have long since forgotten about that affair. I was in a bad mood at the time, so my tone was a bit harsh," she admitted. There's an old saying, "Don't slap a smiling face." Seeing Lu Changsheng's earnest expression, Lu Miaohuan felt somewhat embarrassed. She lightly lifted her skirt with graceful poise and sat down, delicately sipping from her cup of tea. With the conversation started, the two began to chat. During the conversation, Lu Changxing found Lu Miaohuan to have a much nicer personality than he had imagined. Her character couldn't be described as bad. She acted like a lady of the family, a little reserved, needing others to take the initiative. Then there was the fact that she didn't seem to like smiling that much. This gave the impression that she always had a touch of coldness on her face. In reality, she wasn't that aloof, not the keep-out kind. Outside the cottage, Lu Bo used his ability to eavesdrop on the conversation inside. The old man's face was creased with smiles like a blooming chrysanthemum. He thought to himself that it seemed Lu Changxing was quite adept at taking multiple wives, not without merit. Then he stopped eavesdropping and patiently waited outside. In his view, since Lu Miaohuan was willing to continue talking to Lu Changxing, the match was halfway to success. Inside the bamboo heart cottage, Lu Changxing and Lu Miaohuan sat opposite each other, enjoying tea and casual conversation. The secular world indeed has many fun and interesting things, but I must admit I'm not very knowledgeable about such matters. If Miss Miaohuan is interested, I would be willing to accompany you to explore and see the sights, he offered. As for women, where in the mortal world could one encounter a celestial being like you? Surely Miss Miaohuan hasn't forgotten the first time I saw you, struck by your divinity to the point of losing my composure, he continued, heaping praise yet keeping his tone even and his eyes clear. In fact, much of the time he didn't even let his gaze rest on Lu Miaohuan. Lu Changxing did intend to marry Lu Miaohuan, to have her bear his children. But he wouldn't demean himself like a servile suitor, fawning over her. Moreover, he believed that for a woman like Lu Miaohuan, being too obsequious would only count against him. Thus, Lu Changxing maintained a very composed demeanor. Over the past 4 years at the Lu family, Lu Changxing felt that his greatest improvement had been in his state of mind, his emotional maturity. Beauty lies in the inevitable passing of time. The flowers of spring, the moons of autumn, the days of summer, the snows of winter. If you bloom, the gentle breeze comes naturally. If your heart is at peace, your smile will be serene. The Immortal Beauty Technique second-rank Talisman Master Skills, the 9 Netherhound, these things made Lu Chongqing feel like a blossoming flower. With the gentle wind passing by, naturally bees and butterflies would come to dance around him. Moreover, winning a woman through begging, groveling and self-degradation would require providing high emotional value later, spending much time and effort, and could upset the balance of his harem. He, Lu Chongqing, was destined not to spend most of his time and energy on any single woman. At that time I was with my sister. You were astonished upon seeing me, but didn't you feel anything when you saw her? Lu Miaohuan's cool visage revealed a hint of joy as she crossed her legs in her high-heeled, black silk stockings, posing seductively as she asked Lu Chongqing. Lu Chongqing rose slightly from his seat and picked up the teapot to fill the cups with tea. At the same time, his gaze dropped to those crossed legs, as if signaling to Lu Miaohuan the reason why he was so captivated by her beauty. This action did not disgust Lu Miaohuan. On the contrary, it brought a secret delight to her heart. Ever since she was young, her elder sister Lu Miaoga had always outshone her, receiving most of the family elders' praises. Her daily attire was even subject to commentary. Now, the candid admiration in Lu Changsheng's eyes gave her a sense of validation. Miss Lu Miaoga, of course, is like a fairy from the heavens, truly stunning and peerless. Before this, I've had the fortune to see Miss Lu Miaoga 2 or 3 times but did not feel the same heart-racing emotion when I saw you, Miss Miaohuan. It reminded me of a line of poetry I'd heard before. When golden wind and jade do meet, they surpass countless others in the mundane world. Upon seeing Miss Miaohuan, I felt just that. Even a mere glance felt like it surpassed countless other joys. As Lu Chongqing spoke, his eyes portrayed a sincere look at Lu Miaohuan. When golden wind and jade do meet, they surpass countless others in the mundane world. That's a beautiful verse. Did you hear it in the secular world? Lu Miaohuan's beautiful eyes sparkled. A faint smile appeared on her cool face as if a lotus bloomed in seclusion. Does the second young miss actually like poetry? Lu Chongqing was a bit surprised. But then he recalled what Lu Bo had said, that the second young miss didn't take cultivation too seriously, and now, being in her early 20s, it wasn't too far-fetched for her to enjoy such things. Yes, I heard it before in the secular world. The full poem goes, the skillful clouds play coy, the stars convey their grief. But I am not well read and don't fully understand its meaning. I only found it apt and resonating with my mood at the time. There's a story behind this poem too. If Miss Miaohuan is interested, I could share it, said Lu Chongqing with a smile. Sure. Lu Miaohuan nodded, her delicate chin lightly perked. After more than 4 years, Lu Chongqing, a man from another world, found a use for the fragments of knowledge in his mind. And so they talked for more than an hour. During their conversation, Lu Miaohuan was very happy. Her impression of Lu Chongqing greatly improved, and she was somewhat willing to marry Lu Chongqing. However, a woman's reserve and her pride made her purse her lips as she said, Lu Chongqing, I had a very enjoyable chat with you today. If you can agree to a few conditions of mine, I will consent to marry you. Miss Miaohuan, please speak, Lu Chongqing said with a nod and smile, his demeanor as gentle as jade. If I marry you, I must be the principal wife, and after you marry me, you cannot take any more wives or concubines. You cannot force me to have children, and there are more. Lu Miaohuan, suppressing her shy heart, laid out her conditions one by one with a cold, unflappable demeanor. GG. Upon hearing these conditions, Lu Chongqing internally cried GG in retreat. He immediately knew this matchmaking was doomed to fail. Actually, he thought Lu Miaohuan's conditions weren't too excessive. They were just the spiritual requirements of a young girl who yearned for love. She had barely mentioned material things. If Lu Chongqing were just an ordinary person, a normal cultivator who wished for a serene life, then these conditions would not be troublesome. But with the blessings of many offspring system, Lu Chongqing was destined to be a man of great love and couldn't forsake a forest for a single great tree. Though he could agree now and deal with it later, Lu Chongqing didn't want to do that. He also disdained to deceive someone's feelings. Moreover, he was still in an inferior position within the Lu family, and agreeing now meant he had to follow through. Miss Miaohuan, I understand your intentions, Lu Chongqing said. However, I would need some time to consider your conditions before I can give you an answer. Lu Chongqing apologized with those words. You need to consider it? Lu Miaohuan was taken aback, finding it somewhat unbelievable. In the midst of their conversation, Lu Chongqing had shown signs that he liked her. Moreover, she thought that since she was willing to marry Lu Chongqing, he should have been ecstatic and overwhelmed with joy. But now Lu Chongqing actually suggested that he needed to think about it? What did that mean? Was she being made to beg for a marriage that wouldn't happen? Her proud nature couldn't stand such humiliation. Suddenly, Lu Miaohuan's exquisite face turned icy cold, like a millennium-old glacier, as she swiftly stood up and walked out of the pavilion with a clip-clop of her heels. Lu Chongqing watched Lu Miaohuan's retreating elegant figure and shook his head slightly. Such beauty was beyond his reach for the time being. Second young miss, what's wrong? Lu Bo, who was waiting outside the pavilion, saw Lu Miaohuan emerge with a frosty face and quickly walk away, puzzled. Weren't they just having a pleasant talk? He hurried after her. Chapter 48. Lu Miaoyun. Underson Lu Bo, the family head is willing to marry the second young miss to me, and I am truly overwhelmed and delighted. I am also very fond of the second young miss, but she and I are not suitable for each other, Lu Chongqing said with a bitter smile as he faced Lu Bo, who had come with the air of demanding an explanation. Not only do I have so many wives and children, but when I first sought cultivation, I also vowed to marry 100 women and have several hundred children in my lifetime. And what the second young miss desires is a person who is wholly devoted to her. But this is something I cannot and will not be able to achieve. Therefore, while the second young miss and I might be fated to meet, we are not destined to share our lives. Even if we truly became husband and wife, these issues could potentially become seeds of discord. If there are conflicts, then I would have let down the family head's trust and nurturing. I would be too ashamed to face the family head, Lu Chongqing said with a face full of sincere earnestness. Lu Bo's wrinkled face twitched slightly upon hearing Lu Changsheng's words. The declaration of marrying 100 wives and fathering several hundred children was indeed too much for him to bear. He felt like asking, "Are you a breeding pig?" But considering that in a little over 4 years, Lu Chongqing already had 12 women and had never stopped having children, he did seem to have some intention of striving toward that goal. Ah! Lu Bo sighed deeply. He never expected that in this arranged meeting, though Lu Miaohuan agreed, Lu Chongqing on the other hand did not, feeling it was not suitable. However, as poorly considered as Lu Changsheng's reasons might be, they were understandable and made some sense. While Lu Changsheng's talent in talisman making was exceptional, it was still just latent potential and had not all been turned into strength. If the two truly married, Lu Miaohuan would technically be gaining the upper hand. Given Lu Miaohuan's personality between the two of them, it would certainly be Lu Chongqing making more concessions for Lu Miaohuan. It would still be fine if Lu Chongqing were willing to make those concessions, but if the situation turned out as Lu Chongqing described, and the two eventually entered into marital discord, what should the Lu family do then? Favor Lu Miaohuan? Naturally that would not do. With Lu Changsheng's exceptional natural talent in talisman making, if he could take his talents one step further, turning his potential into strength, his position in the Lu family would soon be comparable to that of a guest elder. To take such a course of action would clearly cause resentment in Lu Chongqing, like driving him away from the family. The Lu family's strategy of marrying a direct female member to Lu Chongqing was to firmly bind him to the Lu family. If things played out this way, it would be a case of being too clever by half, and the result would be the opposite of what was intended. But if they favored Lu Chongqing, that would put the patriarch of the Lu family, Lu Yuanding, in a difficult position. Thus, if Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaohuan did marry and conflict arose, the Lu family would indeed be in a difficult position on both sides. All right, I understand what you mean and I will relay it to the family head as is. Lu Bo gave Lu Chongqing a pat on the shoulder, not saying much else. After all, this kind of matter required the willing consent of both parties, and they couldn't force Lu Chongqing into anything. Honestly speaking, the Lu family would even tend to lean more towards Lu Changsheng's side. Thank you, Lu Bo, Lu Chongqing said, wearing an expression of guilty apology. He had originally planned to use this occasion to bring up the matter of Li Feiyu's children to Lu Yuanding, see if he could request Lu Yuanding to reduce or at least lessen the number of Li Feiyu's 50 children. But now, after this development, he felt a bit embarrassed to bring it up and decided to set the matter aside, to look for another opportunity in the future. He said he wants to marry 100 wives? Have several hundred children? Lu Yuanding was at a loss for words upon hearing Lu Bo's account, unsure of what to say for a moment. Was this man trying to walk through what took 100 years for a family to accomplish in just a few decades? It seemed Lu Chongqing had truly given up on cultivation and only wanted to have children. But considering Lu Changsheng's 9th-grade spiritual root, he could somewhat understand. Yes, family head, though it sounds like a joke, I feel that Lu Chongqing is quite serious about it, and it doesn't seem like he is using it as an excuse to avoid marrying the second young miss, Lu Bo said with a bitter smile. Lu Yuanding nodded upon hearing this, then sighed deeply. I guess I did not consider this matter thoroughly enough. No matter whether Lu Changsheng's words were an excuse or the truth, he harbored no blame toward him. As the head of a family, he still possessed the capacity to be tolerant of others. For the sake of the family's interest, he couldn't possibly blame Lu Chongqing. Besides, when it came to this marriage, he had always been thinking about his daughter Lu Miaohuan. He felt that Lu Chongqing was an excellent match for his daughter. He had never considered Lu Changsheng's wishes and thoughts. There was also a subconscious arrogance in his heart. He thought that if he gave his daughter to Lu Chongqing would be too grateful to refuse. But now that he thought about it, what Lu Chongqing said made sense. Putting aside the matter of Lu Chongqing wanting to have hundreds of children, their personalities also indeed did not match well. What if they had conflicts in the future? He was confident that he could control Lu Chongqing now, but what about later? Even if he was the patriarch of the Lu family, he couldn't pressure someone with power forever. The other family elders wouldn't agree either. Moreover, what Lu Chongqing said was also considering the Lu family's perspective. It showed that he had a certain sense of belonging to the Lu family. It was well-intentioned. Sigh. Lu Yuanding let out another sigh. He was now just a father worried sick over his daughter. Thinking of how his daughter's anger had subsided and she was willing to wait for Lu Changsheng's response showed that his daughter truly had a good impression of Lu Chongqing. But now that Lu Chongqing disagreed, he was somewhat unsure how to face his daughter, or what to say about this matter. Headache. 2 days later, Lu Chongqing received another matchmaking invitation. He understood now that the Lu family's upper echelons were determined to marry him to a woman of significance within the family. Only then would he truly be considered one of their own, a Lu family son-in-law. Even though he had previously married and taken 9 worldly women from the Lu family as wives and concubines, in the eyes of the family's higher-ups, this did not count as him truly being a Lu family son-in-law. The girl from this matchmaking session was named Lu Miaoyun, the granddaughter of the Lu family's 4th elder. 18 this year with a 7th-grade spiritual root, she was delicate and lovely with a docile and sensible personality. Perhaps because of what happened with Lu Miaohuan, the Lu family had specifically chosen a docile and sensible girl. The matchmaking session went very smoothly. After the two met, both sides nodded in agreement, and the next day the Lu family arranged their wedding. The wedding day was set for 18 days later, coinciding with an auspicious day on the lunar calendar. Meanwhile, within an ancient and exquisitely elegant small building, smash! An ornately patterned vase was hurled to the ground, shattering into countless pieces. The fragments on the ground reflected a beautiful face filled with coldness. In the room, Lu Miaohuan smashed one vase after another to vent her anger until she finally calmed down. You tell me, is Lu Chongqing purposely humiliating me because of what happened back then? Lu Miaohuan suddenly looked up, her eyes slightly red as she turned to her personal maid Kuei. After leaving the bamboo heart pavilion, her anger had slightly cooled, and she was still considering giving Lu Chongqing another chance. As long as Lu Chongqing was willing to come and apologize, she was still willing to marry him. But to her surprise, Lu Chongqing flat out refused her. And just 2 days later he was betrothed to her cousin, the granddaughter of the 4th elder, Lu Miaoyun. For her, a woman of high pride, it felt like humiliation. Miss, how could that be? The maid Kuei cautiously said, Lu Chongqing would be too eager to please you. I heard that the reason Lu Chongqing didn't agree is that he felt unworthy of you, Mississippi. He still wants to take wives and concubines to have a bunch of children, that's why he chose Miss Miaoyun. Lu Miaohuan surely knew that Lu Chongqing wasn't purposely humiliating her. Her father Lu Yuanding had also come to soothe and comfort her. But she just couldn't swallow this insult. Lu Miaohuan's beautiful eyes narrowed, her chest rose and fell with indignation, and then she said through clenched teeth, Lu Chongqing, I will find a man 10 times, 100 times stronger than you to make you regret this. Chapter 49. Wedding. _1 After Lu Chongxing and Lu Miaoyun's marriage was settled, the numerous wives and concubines in his backyard naturally came to know of it. Even if there was harmony in the backyard and all the women were virtuous and gentle, upon hearing such news, some felt a touch of gloom and loss. Not only was Lu Chongxing going to take another wife, there were also reasons pertaining to the Lu family. After all, among these women except for Chu Zhenjin, the rest were daughters of the Lu family. Now that Lu Changsheng's status in the Lu family had risen, the family was marrying off a granddaughter of an elder with a spiritual root to Lu Chongxing. And it was with all formalities, the giving of betrothal gifts and a grand wedding. This naturally made them feel somewhat uncomfortable. On a regular basis, although they had distinctions as wives and concubines, they were not separated into different levels, all depending on Lu Changsheng's affection. Once this granddaughter of the elder became his wife, it need not be said that she would be the principal wife. Ladies, do not worry. Towards you all, I have always been fair, and in the future I will make up for it by arranging a grand wedding for each of you. Lu Chongxing also noticed that his wives and concubines were somewhat unhappy and spoke up to comfort them. This group of wives and concubines had been with him for many years. All had borne him children twice, and were currently expecting the third, so naturally there were strong emotions. Thank you, my lord. My lord, we are fine. The clan's willingness to marry Miss Miaoyun to my lord also shows the high regard they have for you. Although the women felt gloomy inside with a sense of regret that they had helped their husband rise to nobility, they soon adjusted, knowing this was the reality. With Lu Changsheng's current identity and status, they, as secular women without spiritual roots, also felt somewhat unworthy of him. Being able to become Lu Changsheng's wives and concubines was already a fortunate thing. It was incomparably better than many other sisters, best friends and acquaintances. Moreover, after so many years of living together, they had come to understand Lu Changsheng's character. They knew that their husband was not heartless, one who would forget old love upon finding new. That night Lu Chongxing came to comfort his wives and concubines. And perhaps stimulated by the day's events, each concubine exerted extra effort, all joining together and using a myriad of techniques. Afterwards, Lu Chongxing lay on the bed with the women in his arms and couldn't help but think to himself. Indeed, one is influenced by one's surroundings. His wives and concubines never had so many tricks up their sleeves before. Through the recent contact with Jiu'er and Shui'er, who were sent by Hong Yi, they had learned so many new tricks. If this continued daily, how could one withstand it? In the blink of an eye, 18 days had passed. The wedding of Lu Chongxing and Lu Miaoyun began. Unlike the simple ceremonies of Lu Changsheng's previous two weddings, this wedding was very formal and lively. All of Qingzhou Mountain was festive, decked out in lights and decorations, hung with large red lanterns. That day Lu Chongxing also woke up early. He was dressed by two women, combed his hair, wore a golden crown and changed into a red brocade groom's outfit. Then, with a big red flower on his chest, he mounted a spiritual steed, led the wedding procession, and came to the fourth elder's residence with much fanfare to receive the bridal palanquin. Since both families lived in Qingzhou Valley of the Lu family and were not far apart, after Lu Chongxing placed Lu Miaoyun, dressed in fiery red bridal attire and in her phoenix crown and rosy clouds robe, into the bridal palanquin, he led the procession around the entirety of Qingzhou Mountain. Along the way, many of the Lu family disciples came to watch the wedding. I still remember standing here 4 years ago, witnessing Lu Chongxing entering our Lu family as a live-in son-in-law. Who could have thought that after just over 4 years he would be marrying our Miaoyun? There's no helping it. Who can blame someone for having such a good talent for talisman making? Indeed, who would have thought that a son-in-law brought in for breeding purposes would possess such talisman-making talent? A middle-grade talisman master, no less, who became one in just over 3 years, even surpassing Sister Mayaja's talent in talisman making. The fourth elder might be looking to have him succeed him by marrying off a member of the Miaoyun clan to Lu Chongxing. Having married a sister from the Miaoyun clan with the care of the fourth elder, Lu Chongxing has really soared high. Lu Chongxing only has a 9th grade spiritual root. No matter what, he has no hope of achieving foundation establishment in this life. Foundation establishment? I have a 6th grade spiritual root, and even I dare not dream of achieving foundation establishment without some fortuitous opportunity. But this Lu Chongqing really has changed a lot. I remember when he first arrived he seemed so ordinary, but now he is quite handsome. He's always engrossed with women. He must have practiced some sort of cultivation technique for preserving youth and beauty. If only I had married Lu Chongqing earlier. Many disciples from the Lu family, seeing the handsome and tall Lu Chongqing riding a spiritual horse to marry Lu Miaoyun, expressed their feelings of admiration and envy. In just 4.5 short years, many of them witnessed Lu Chongqing's entry into the Lu family as a breeding son-in-law. Then he became a talisman-making apprentice, a talisman master, moved to Qingzhou Valley, and now he's marrying the granddaughter of the fourth elder. The immortal seedlings who came to the Lu family as sons-in-law with Lu Chongqing saw him on the spiritual horse and felt an incomparable envy, as if it were something out of a dream. Back then they were all eliminated by Qingyun's sect and came to the Lu family as sons-in-law. Now 4.5 years have passed and they are still breeding for the Lu family, working to complete the task of producing 50 descendants over 20 years. Meanwhile, Lu Chongqing has already married the direct granddaughter of the fourth elder of the Lu family, a female cultivator with a spiritual root. To know, this fourth elder is a first-grade top-level talisman master. With an extraordinary status in the Lu family, Lu Chongqing's marriage to his granddaughter made everyone envious. In the crowd, Li Feiyu watched this scene, reflecting on their shared past coming to the Lu family, also filled with mixed emotions. But still he felt happy for Lu Chongqing. Lu Chongqing rode the spiritual horse, aware of the various gazes on himself, and couldn't help feeling a bit of the pride of riding on the spring breeze. He felt that after enduring so long in the Lu family, he had finally made something of himself. However, he was very clear in his heart, in this world where the strong prey upon the weak and power is respected. Cultivation and strength are the true paths to supremacy. His current status and position were all owing to his talisman-making skill. It was a shortcut like a rootless weed or a pavilion in the sky. He must not get carried away. After making a circuit around the entire Qingzhou mountain, Lu Chongqing brought the bride back to his mansion. With many senior members of the Lu family as witnesses, the wedding began. Pay respects to heaven and earth. Pay respects to the high hall. The couple bows to each other. Escort to the bridal chamber. After the wedding was completed, Lu Miaoyun was finally ranked as Lu Chongqing's main wife. Lu Chongqing had known about this well in advance. He did not contend for these titles or status with the Lu family, so as not to displease the fourth elder. His other wives and concubines were also prepared from the beginning and understood the situation. After sending the bride to the bridal chamber, Lu Chongqing untied the large red flower and went out to receive the guests. On this day he got to know the higher echelons, clan elders and guest elders of the Lu family. He was officially inducted into the inner circle of the Lu family and became one of their own. During this process he saw the fifth elder of the Lu family who proposed the idea of buying barrel bamboo wine during the toasting. Hearing this, the fifth elder readily agreed. He also mentioned that his family had many other kinds of spiritual wine, and Lu Chongqing could come to taste and purchase them later. Chapter 50. Buy one get one free. Under for one night had fallen. The guests, full from the feast and merry with wine, gradually dispersed, and Lu Chongqing headed to the bridal chamber to consummate the marriage. Young master. Standing outside the bridal room was a young girl dressed in a green luo skirt with 2 buns atop her head, her features delicate and pretty, her eyes large and clear. This was Lu Miaoyun's personal maid, named Shao Qing. She too possessed a spiritual root, a cultivator. For a cultivation family like the Lu family, in order to ensure a constant supply of fresh blood, they would also search for children with spiritual roots in the secular world. Once found, these children would be sent to Qingzhou Mountain for nurturing. However, unless a child was particularly talented, most were taught the skills of spirit plant cultivation, spirit slaughter, culinary arts, wine brewing, mining and so on. Compared to formations, elixir medicines, artifact refining and talismans, these skills did not have a high threshold, were fairly easy to learn but were rather arduous. The Lu family's spirit fields, Qingzhou forests and spirit mines, all work that required cultivators, were basically managed by these adopted disciples. When these individuals reached a certain age, the men would marry secular women from the Lu family, and the women would become concubines to the young masters of the Lu family, kept within the family's own circles. Xiaoqing belonged to the children raised by the Lu family from a young age, serving as Lu Miao's maid. Unless something unforeseen occurred, she was expected to become the concubine of a Lu family disciple in the future. But at this moment, since Lu Miaoyun was marrying Lu Chongxing, Xiaoqing also accompanied the bride as a chambermaid. For Lu Chongxing, marrying Lu Miaoyun and gaining a maid with a spiritual root as part of her dowry was indeed a pleasant surprise. Xiaoqing, you've worked hard, Lu Chongxing said with a smile to the charming maid standing before him, nodded his head, then pushed open the door and entered. Red lamps burned brightly in the room, embellished with festivity, set up in splendid brilliance. Lu Miaoyun was draped in a fiery red phoenix-embroidered bridal dress, wearing a phoenix crown and rosy clouds robe, her head covered with a red veil, demurely sitting atop the bridal bed. Miaoyun. Lu Chongxing approached the bed and called out to the beauty before him. Lu Miaoyun did not respond, but even her seated posture betrayed a slight nervousness. Young master. At that moment, the maid Xiaoqing approached with a tray that held a jade balance beam and a set of wine utensils. While the Lu family was a cultivation family, they were not completely detached from some of the secular customs and practices. Lu Chongxing knew the rituals, took the jade balance beam, and gently lifted the red veil obscuring Lu Miaoyun's face. A visage of gentle and soft beauty, dazzlingly lovely, was unveiled. Her arched brows framed her clear eyes, her nose was delicate and pretty, and her small mouth was luscious red. She might not be as exquisitely stunning as Lu Miaohuan, but she was quite attractive. She possessed the kind of sweet, enduring beauty that gave the impression of a pure girl next door. My husband. As the veil lifted, Lu Miaoyun's long lashes trembled slightly, her pretty face blushed with shyness, and she called out in a voice that was soft, sweet, and slightly naive. Her personality wasn't as timid or delicate as Chu Zenshin's, nor was she the type to be calm and composed. Furthermore, as a woman who had only met Lu Chongxing once before their marriage was arranged, how could she be completely at ease on their wedding night? Lu Chongxing chuckled, took a wine jug from the tray, poured Lu Miaoyun a cup of spiritual wine, and then poured one for himself. He then said, Miaoyun, today we become husband and wife, and from this day forward, we shall journey through life together. Come, let's finish this drink. I will follow my husband's guidance for the rest of my life. A blush showed on Lu Miaoyun's face as she looked at the handsome young man before her, and then they exchanged cups of wine. Wishing the young master and young mistress 100 years of harmony, and may you have an early heir, said the maid Xiaoqing as she collected the cups, her voice clear and crisp. Then with a curtsy she left the room, closed the door behind her, and left the newlyweds alone. After drinking the wedding cup, Lu Chongxing immediately felt a bit of heat in his lower abdomen and realized there was something off about the drink. Lu Miaoyun's complexion was also flushed and rosy, like blooming peach blossoms. In the room, the sound of their breathing at this moment seemed exceptionally clear. Lu Chongxing didn't need to think to know that the just-consumed wedding cup must have been specially prepared by the Lu family, intended to enhance the mood of the wedding night. He directly embraced his delicate wife in his arms and said, Yuner, it's time to rest. My lord, the light is still on, Lu Miaoyun murmured softly. It's fine, this way I can see clearly. That year Lu Chongxing was 22 years old. He had 5 wives, 6 concubines, 2 favored beauties, and a maid. The next day, dawn broke brightly. The gentle sunlight filtered through the lattice window, casting its light onto the messy, bright red wedding garments and fiery bridal dress on the floor. After waking up, Lu Chongxing looked at the disheveled beauty in his arms, with tear stains still visible at the corner of her eyes, and felt completely relaxed and spirited, without a hint of lethargy. Seeing Lu Miaoyun's pitiful state, remembering what happened the night before, he thought to himself that this little wife was indeed obedient and well-behaved, without the slightest bit of young mistress temperament. He couldn't help but kiss her pretty and fair cheek. This little action immediately woke up the sleeping Lu Miaoyun. She opened her eyes and softly called out to Lu Chongxing. My lord. The voice was tender and silly, stirring a few threads of affection in Lu Chongxing's heart. He gently pinched her fair, blushing cheek and said softly, It's still early, you rest well. We have to go see grandma later. Lu Miaoyun rubbed her eyes, not going back to sleep, indicating she wanted to get up. Seeing this, Lu Chongqing immediately supported the beauty. However, after all, Lu Miaoyun possessed the 4th level energy refinement cultivation. Her body was stronger than that of ordinary people. Even though Lu Chongqing was somewhat rational yesterday, he had not made their first time such that she couldn't get up and move. Moreover, the spiritual wine was somewhat beneficial for her. Soon the two got out of bed and started dressing. Lu Miaoyun quickly gathered up the handkerchief and placed it in the mandarin duck brocade box nearby. This caused Lu Chongqing to smile. Afterwards, the two of them tidied up their clothes and pushed open the room door, ready to go pay respects to the 4th elder. Young master, miss. The maid Xiaoqing was standing outside the door, clearly not having slept all night. Xiaoqing, didn't I tell you? You didn't have to stay up, you should go rest now, Lu Miaoyun told her. A maid like Xiaoqing, who possessed a spiritual root, wasn't entirely there to serve when following the young masters and mistresses. She was more for miscellaneous tasks while also learning a few things. To use her solely for serving would be too wasteful. Miss, I'm not tired, Xiaoqing said with a gentle smile, her voice crisp and melodious like an oriole. She had a 9th grade spiritual root and already reached the 2nd level in qi refinement, much more energetic than ordinary people. Lu Miaoyun didn't say much more and hand in hand with Lu Chongqing, left the estate to head toward the residence of the 4th elder. Chapter 51. Lu family's 4th elder. Yuner, you must live a good life with Chongqing from now on and listen to your husband more, understand? Chongqing Yuner is my granddaughter. Now that I've entrusted her to you, don't let me down. The 4th elder looked at Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaoyun and spoke out. Although this 4th elder was in her 70s or 80s and old enough to be a grandmother, she did not look her age at all. She wore a deep cyan, elegantly simple dress, with black hair meticulously coiled up, secured by a slanting jade hairpin. Her complexion was rosy and healthy, making her look like a noblewoman in her 30s or 40s. However, upon closer inspection, one could see strands of white in her temples and a few crow's feet around her almond-shaped eyes. But these white hairs and wrinkles did not make the woman appear much older. On the contrary, they added a strong sense of maturity to her overall bearing. Grandmother, please rest assured that Chongqing will certainly take good care of Yuner and won't let her suffer the slightest grievance, Lu Chongqing replied respectfully. Even though it was a marriage of convenience, now that they were married and had shared the bridal chamber, he naturally intended to take it seriously and assume his duties and responsibilities. Lu Miaoyun also softly acknowledged. Good. Grandmother believes in you. Work hard together so I can hold great-grandchildren soon, the 4th elder said, joining their hands together and smiling. Her demeanor was gentle and kind, her tone warm, but because she had held a high position for a long time, her words carried a faint authority. Upon hearing these words, Lu Miaoyun's cheeks immediately turned a shade of red, and she lowered her head shyly. Lu Chongqing responded with a frank expression. Yes, Chongqing will certainly strive hard. He too hoped that Lu Miaoyun would conceive soon. Chongqing, I've heard from Miaoga that you've never been formally taught in talisman making and have relied solely on your own exploration. Grandmother teaches a class on talisman making at the end of each month. You should come as well. If you have any problems or issues with your cultivation, feel free to come directly to grandmother, continued the 4th elder, speaking gently as if she were a kind and loving elder. As a person responsible for the Lu family's talisman making, she not only made talismans herself but also taught other Lu family disciples in the art, in the hopes of cultivating new talisman masters. After all, types of talents such as array masters, alchemists, artifact refiners and talisman masters were never too numerous for any family, which always hoped for more. However, these skills were highly dependent on innate talent and had a very high threshold. Among the Lu family, she had only managed to teach Lu Miaoga. Like Lu Miaoyun, her granddaughter had also learned talisman making, but with no real talent for it, otherwise she would have been cultivated as well. It was her efforts that allowed Lu Miaoyun to have a second arranged meeting with Lu Chongqing. As long as Lu Chongqing married Lu Miaoyun, the 4th elder was willing to instruct and train him carefully, adding a second-grade talisman master to the Lu family. Chongqing thanks grandmother deeply, Lu Chongqing immediately said with a bow, his voice betraying excitement. He was aware that the fourth elder before him was a top-level first-grade talisman master, and also possessed the ninth-level energy refinement cultivation. There was naturally no issue with her guiding his cultivation. As for talisman making, although he had no need for guidance, having the fourth elder's instruction as a cover would allow him to reveal his talents in talisman making even faster in the future. Otherwise, having just become a middle-grade talisman master, revealing the abilities of a top-grade master would take at least 3 to 5 years. That was an excruciating amount of time. With the fourth elder's endorsement, he might be able to accelerate that timeline according to the situation. We are one family, there's no need for such formality. I am Immerse grandmother, and from now on, you'll be yours too. If you encounter any difficulties or have any issues, feel free to reach out to grandmother. I still carry a fair bit of weight in my words here at the Lu family, the fourth elder said with a gentle and benevolent smile. Yes, grandmother, Lu Chongqing responded, also revealing a sincere smile. Even though he was aware of the underlying motives in her caring and affectionate words, they truly warmed his heart and made him feel a sense of closeness. Immediately, Lu Chongqing addressed the fourth elder. Grandma, Chongqing indeed has a matter for which he would like to trouble you. What matter? The fourth elder's expression was gentle. Chongqing has a good friend by the name of Li Feiyu, who came with Chongqing to the Lu family to become a son-in-law. This friend of mine is different from me. He is wholeheartedly devoted to cultivation. Now he is hindered by the obligation of fathering children, so I would like to trouble Grandma, to see if it's possible to exempt him from the requirement of having 50 children, or at least reduce this number, Lu Chongqing said. He certainly had not forgotten about his good brother Li Feiyu's situation. He had intended to discuss this matter with the family head Lu Yuanding before. But because of Lu Miaohun's situation, he felt somewhat embarrassed to bring it up to Lu Yuanding. Since he now had the opportunity, he naturally took the chance to mention it. Such matters are not really for Grandma to interfere in. However, since you Chongqing have brought it up, Grandma will naturally help you with this, the fourth elder said after a slight pause. For her, as the Lu family's fourth elder, such a matter was not difficult at all. It would only take a single word if she were willing. Moreover, the request came from Lu Chongqing. By now, Lu Chongqing held some weight in the hearts of the Lu family's higher-ups. For such a minor issue, they were willing to do him a favor and have Lu Chongqing feel a bit more gratitude towards the Lu family. After all, Lu Changsheng's request wasn't over the top. In fact, this request raised her opinion and estimation of Lu Chongqing by several notches. A man of integrity and loyalty. In the cultivation world, being a person of integrity and valuing relationships is not considered much of an advantage. But from the perspective of the Lu family, she naturally hoped that Lu Chongqing was a person of integrity who valued relationships. For your sake, Chongqing, Grandma has the authority to annul your friend Li Feiyu's original contract altogether, exempting him from the requirement to have children. But there are rules that make a family. The Lu family also has its rules and does not support idlers. After exempting him from the requirement to have children, he will no longer enjoy any of the Lu family's benefits and entitlements. He may continue to reside in the Lu family, but he must perform certain services for the family. If he cannot accept this, then he must leave the Lu family, the fourth elder explained. At that moment, her gentle and kind tone carried an undertone of unspoken authority. Thank you, Grandma. I will discuss these matters with him later and will give you a response afterward. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing stood up and bowed his hands in salute, feeling that this arrangement was already generous enough. Having been in the Lu family for a while, he was aware of some of the Lu family's circumstances. Although they had their own spiritual vein-blessed land and assets, they could not be considered overly abundant. Some of the peripheral disciples of the Lu family in Qingzhou Villa had to refine materials, guard bamboo groves, and cut down Qingling bamboo to earn spirit stones, among other tasks. In such circumstances, how could they afford to provide for idlers? To annul the past contract without any cost, and to offer the choice of either staying with the Lu family to work or leaving, was already quite acceptable. Otherwise, according to the original contract conditions, if one did not have 50 children within 20 years, not only would one have to compensate with 3 times the resources, but also serve the Lu family for 10 years. Fine, once you have a result, just let Grandma know, and at that time Grandma will speak to the family head about this matter, the fourth elder said with a smile on her face. Afterwards, Lu Chongxing and Lu Miaoyun chatted for a while with the fourth elder before excusing themselves and departing. As they were leaving, the fourth elder even stuffed several boxes of pastries and spirit fruits into Lu Changsheng's hands, giving him the feeling of visiting relatives during the new year. Chapter 52. Li Feiyu's choice under one. After leaving the fourth elder's residence, Lu Chongxing and Lu Miaoyun visited the fifth elder's residence on their way. They also came to purchase spiritual wine and to inquire whether the wedding wine they drank last night was also brewed by this fifth elder. He felt the spiritual wine last night was quite good. Chongxing, this is the green jade bamboo wine you requested, brewed from our Lu family's green jade spiritual bamboo, which nourishes the flesh and relieves fatigue. This is the green pear wine brewed from green pears with effects similar to the green jade bamboo wine, though the taste is relatively tart. You can try it. This is the white jade 100 flowers wine, brewed from white jade spiritual rice and dozens of flowers and fruits, with effects that nourish the flesh and calm the mind. The flavor is rich, sweet and lingers long. This is the millet ancient wine, brewed from millet spiritual rice. The fifth elder, seeing Lu Chongxing and Lu Miaoyun come to buy spiritual wine, was also very enthusiastic, presenting a variety of spiritual wines for Lu Chongxing to taste. All these spiritual wines were first grade with their quality, lower, middle or upper grade, determined by the age of the raw materials and the fermentation time. Brewing wine and alchemy are different. Apart from the raw materials, there is also a significant cost of time. Even if the raw materials for spiritual wine are average, by storing it in a place rich in spiritual energy to continuously absorb energy and ferment gently, the spiritual energy within the wine becomes more mellow and concentrated, thus improving the quality. Lu Chongxing briefly tasted a few types of spiritual wine and found that the green jade bamboo wine and the white jade 100 flowers wine suited his taste more. He then asked Lu Miaoyun which flavor of spiritual wine she preferred. Her tastes were similar to his, favoring the white jade 100 flowers wine. Without delay, Lu Chongxing told the fifth elder that he wished to purchase 10 bottles of green jade bamboo wine and 10 jars of white jade 100 flowers wine. He also asked the fifth elder if the wedding wine he drank the previous night was one of the fifth elder's brews. The fifth elder chuckled and told Lu Chongxing that the wedding wine was called Tiger Wolf Tonic Wine. Drinking it occasionally was good for the body and cultivation, but too much could actually harm the body. Drinking a cup once every 10 days or half a month would suffice. Immediately, Lu Chongxing requested a bottle of the Tiger Wolf Tonic Wine. He planned to take it back and use it to rejuvenate his wives and concubines. The green jade bamboo wine and white jade 100 flowers wine were the lower grade of the younger years, costing 2 spirit stones per bottle and 3 spirit stones per jar respectively. The Tiger Wolf Tonic Wine, however, cost 5 spirit stones per bottle. Altogether it came to 55 spirit stones, and the fifth elder generously gave Lu Chongxing a discount of 5 spirit stones. After purchasing the spiritual wine, Lu Chongxing didn't stay long and bid farewell to the fifth elder with Lu Miaoyun. However, Lu Chongxing had Lu Miaoyun go back first as he made his way to Qingzhou Villa. He planned to discuss the recent events with Li Feiyu. Brother Chongxing. Good to see you, brother-in-law. Chongxing, brother-in-law. Brother Chongxing, do you need anything over here? As Lu Chongxing arrived at Qingzhou Villa, many Lu family disciples actively greeted him along the way. Now that Lu Chongxing had become a middle-grade talisman master and married Lu Miaoyun, there was no unpleasantness among the Lu family disciples towards him, feeling that even a mere son-in-law deserved no less. Under the Lu family's education that prioritizes family above all else, Lu Chongxing was now seen as one of their own in their eyes. Even if some were displeased, they wouldn't be foolish enough to show it. Moreover, Lu Chongxing's personality was very amicable and he was easy to talk to, never offending anyone. Everyone was willing to be on good terms with this talisman master. Lu Chongxing didn't know many of these people very well. But faced with their greetings, he always nodded and smiled in response, exchanging a few words. Sometime later, Lu Chongxing arrived at Li Feiyu's residence and rang the doorbell. The door was opened by one of Li Feiyu's wives. Please wait a moment, brother-in-law Chongxing. I'll go inform my husband. After seeing that it was Lu Chongxing, knowing he was there to see Li Feiyu, she politely invited him into the living room to wait, served him tea and then went to notify Li Feiyu. Changxing, what brings you here? Soon after, Li Feiyu arrived in the hall. What, can't I come for a visit without any particular reason? Lu Changxing said with a smile. Didn't you just get married? Aren't you busy with something? Li Feiyu smiled and said. What could I possibly be busy with? I've come because there's something I need to tell you. Lu Changxing said. What thing, what thing? Li Feiyu asked. About the matter of you having 50 children in 20 years. Lu Changxing picked up his teacup, took a light sip and said. Did you bring this up with the family head? What did the family head say? Upon hearing this, Li Feiyu's entire body shook. A look of surprise appeared on his face and he eagerly looked at Lu Changxing. Although he had previously said he didn't want to trouble Lu Changxing over the years, the Lu family had also started to put pressure on them, the immortal seedlings, to have children. Because of his relationship with Lu Changxing, Uncle Fu had also been relatively lenient towards him. But he had mentioned it a few times, so under pressure he had also had 5 children with 2 more on the way. Gulp, Lu Changxing didn't speak. Under Li Feiyu's eager gaze, he slowly took a sip of tea, comfortably sighed and then said, I didn't mention it to the family head. Li Feiyu was stunned. Seeing Li Feiyu's reaction, Lu Changxing then smiled and said, I talked to the 4th elder about your situation, and the 4th elder has agreed. He agreed to waive the matter of having 50 children and has given you 2 choices. One is... Lu Changxing did not leave him in suspense and relayed the 4th elder's words. Great, great, that's great. Li Feiyu's face showed excitement and elation. Being able to resolve the contract without any cost and not having to have 50 children made him very satisfied. He took a deep breath and with a serious expression thanked Lu Changxing. Changxing, thank you so much for this matter. We don't need to be so polite between us. Feiyu, are you planning to continue staying with the Lu family or to leave? Lu Changxing waved his hand and asked aloud. He truly regarded Li Feiyu as a brother and would naturally help with something within his ability. Ever since he became a first-grade middle-stage talisman master, he had wanted to discuss this matter with Lu Yuanding. But because of Lu Miaohuan's situation he felt a little embarrassed to bring it up with Lu Yuanding, so he waited until now. Although the children belong to the Lu family, they are still young and I just can't bring myself to walk away and leave them behind. I choose to continue working with the Lu family until the children are a bit older and have reached the middle stage of qi refinement, said Li Feiyu after a moment of contemplation. His unwillingness to have 50 children wasn't just because it interfered with his cultivation. It was also because he had attachments and couldn't bear to ignore them and walk away without a care. I also think it's better to stay with the Lu family for now. Lu Changxing nodded in agreement, sharing the same opinion. Li Feiyu was only at the 3rd level of qi refinement. Going out as a loose cultivator would be very difficult, so it was better to stay with the Lu family for now. At least in the Lu family, if possible, he could still look out for him. Then he teased, now that you have 7 children, it's possible that one might have the spiritual root and end up teaching you a thing or two. I don't harbor such extravagant hopes. Everyone says how wonderful cultivation is, but once you step onto the path of immortality, you realize it's not as beautiful as you imagine. If possible, I actually hope none of them have the spiritual root so they can live quietly and carefree in the mortal world for the rest of their lives, Li Feiyu said with a smile and a shake of his head. Initially, he was single-minded in his pursuit of immortality, even willing to give up his status as the young master of the Crimson Whale Gang to become a son-in-law in the Lu family. But now, after more than 4 years, he had come to understand that the path of cultivation was not as wonderful as he had imagined. It was extremely brutal. If one's spiritual root talent was poor and they had no family background, cultivation could be much harder than struggling in the mortal realm. You don't sound like yourself. What, are you regretting embarking on this path of cultivation? Lu Changxing raised his eyebrows when he heard this. This was not the Li Feiyu he remembered. He still remembered Li Feiyu's words from back then. Life is but a 100-year dream, and one must not miss the chance at immortality if it arises, which led him to forsake his position as the young master of the Crimson Whale Gang to be a son-in-law at the Lu family. Chapter 53. Encouragement, Demonic Spirit Root. Zhou regret? Not really, but sometimes I do wonder, is it all worth it? Li Feiyu slightly shook his head, speaking with a hint of wistfulness. People always grow, and over the 4 years at the Lu family he too had his edges worn down and was no longer as brash and confident as he once was. Hearing this, Lu Chongqing fell into a brief silence. He thought of his past self. Full of passion at graduation, extremely diligent, but gradually began to settle for less a few years later. And Li Feiyu was in an even more severe situation. In secular life, as the young master of the Crimson Whale Gang, he was a top expert at 18. And calling him a promising youth was no exaggeration. But upon coming to the cultivation world and becoming a son-in-law to the Lu family, although he stepped onto the cultivation path, life was just about having children, with hardly any hope seen in cultivation. How could such a life continue to be filled with passion and brilliance? He stood up, patted Li Feiyu on the shoulder and said, "Feiyu, I always remember what you said back then. It was when you chose to come to the Lu family, that saying life is but a dream of 100 years. If a chance at immortality presents itself, it cannot be missed. You and I are fortunate to possess the spiritual root and to step onto the path of immortality, to see the scenery beyond the reach of common folk. We are already luckier than 99% of the world. We must be brave, make diligent progress, press on valiantly so as not to fail the precious gift from heaven. Be it the arduous or treacherous journey of seeking immortality, it is all just part of life's landscape. Do not forget why you started, continue to hone yourself and persevere to the end. Even if you should fail, you will have no regrets. Otherwise, possessing the spiritual root and a chance at immortality, yet giving up on yourself and quitting halfway, to ultimately lead a mediocre life, would you be content?" Lu Chongqing looked at Li Feiyu and spoke out. He did not want to see his spirited, immortality-seeking brother grind away his edges and lose his sharpness in such a life, ending up mediocre. Moreover, these words were not just for Li Feiyu but also for himself. Externally, he always seemed indifferent to ambition, seeking only a peaceful life. But in reality, from the moment he awakened the memories of his past life and learned of the existence of immortals in this world, his heart harbored an endless yearning to pursue cultivation. No reason needed. Being an immortal warrants the pursuit. No reason required nor needed. However, he had the system by his side, could see hope, and was also full of hope for his future. Hearing what Lu Chongqing had to say, Li Feiyu's spirit was greatly shaken. He hadn't expected his brother, who always seemed to lack grand aspirations and only wanted a life of pleasure with multiple wives and children, to utter such inspiring words. But he also knew that Lu Chongqing was comforting him, encouraging him. Yet in the next moment he suddenly remembered what Han Lin had mentioned at their 3-year reunion. That Lu Chongqing had once placed first in the heart-testing platform during the 4th trial at the Qingyun sect. The heart-testing platform tests one's Dao heart. That is, the mindset and will to seek immortality. If Lu Chongqing could achieve first place, how could he truly lack ambition and relinquish the pursuit of immortality? That's it, Chongqing knows he possesses a 9th-grade spiritual root, and there is no path to immortality in this life, so he seeks immortality in a different way. By marrying and having children, multiplying his offspring, he carries on the heart of seeking immortality, entrusting it to his descendants. Li Feiyu thought to himself. In this moment his heart seemed much clearer. If he really had no grand ambition and only knew indulgence in sensual pleasures, focusing on progeny, how could he possibly have sold the flying sword he obtained not long after arriving at the Lu family, and spend all the spirit stones to learn talisman making? And in 4.5 years he went from a son-in-law to a middle-grade talisman master, marrying the granddaughter of the Lu family's elder. This clearly wasn't what someone indifferent to ambition and obsessed with pleasures would achieve. If his own brother could do so much, how could he be any worse, any farther behind? Looking at Lu Chongqing with newfound resolve in his eyes, he said, "Content? Of course not. Chongqing, you are right, the chance for immortality is rare and we are fortunate to have witnessed it. How could we possibly give up easily? Ordinary folk seek nothing but fame, fortune and social status. But what we desire is immortal longevity, which obviously isn't easy. That's exactly why we should strive even harder, with a heart that dares to pursue what seems impossible. Life is but a dream of 100 years. With a sight of immortality before us, we must not live it in mediocrity." "Thank you, Chongqing." Li Feiyu spoke, his eyes alight with a sharp and burning flame. "No need to thank me. I simply don't want to see you before truly entering the world of cultivation, losing your edges and your sharpness." Lu Chongqing said aloud. In this world he didn't have many friends, Li Feiyu was pretty much the only one he could count. He still hoped that Li Feiyu could go a long way on the path of cultivation in the future. How could Li Feiyu be so easily defeated? Now that I'm no longer bound by a mere contract, once the child grows a bit more and I break through to the middle stage of qi refinement, I'll go out and make my mark, truly experiencing the cultivation world. Otherwise, if things keep going like this, I'm afraid I'll really lose my edge and dull my sharpness. If I end up as a pile of dry bones one day, I'll have to trouble you to take care of my wives and children. Li Feiyu said with a laugh, full of nonchalance. Having come from a Jianghu gang, he was quite philosophical about life and death, but he couldn't let go of the people around him. Don't you be setting up your banner so early. Lu Changsheng's mouth twitched as he said. Setting up what banner? Li Feiyu asked. It's nothing. If anything unexpected does happen, I'll take care of your wife and kids myself. Lu Chongqing said with a smile, shaking his head. Li Feiyu didn't take these words to heart, and the two continued to catch up on old times. Ever since Lu Chongqing moved to Qingzhou Valley, the two of them really had fewer opportunities to meet and chat. Lu Chongqing also brought out the Biu bamboo wine he had just bought from the fifth elder and shared a bottle with Li Feiyu. After a small drink, Lu Chongqing didn't stay long and went straight back to report Li Feiyu's situation to the fourth elder. The fourth elder was very efficient and had everything sorted out for Li Feiyu the next day, dissolving the contract he had signed with the Lu family before. Thanks to Uncle Fuss arrangements, Li Feiyu chose to become a spiritual butcher due to his expertise in martial arts and blade techniques. A spiritual butcher is much like a regular butcher. One who skins demon beasts, debones them, extracts their marrow, takes their cores and so on, handling their dissection. There are many special demon beasts that, after being hunted down, are not only troublesome to harvest materials from but also can easily lead to waste and damage to the materials. In such cases, they would hire a skilled spiritual slaughterer to handle the dissection and material recovery. As Li Feiyu chose to become a spiritual butcher, the Lu family naturally had an experienced hand to guide him. If it weren't for Li Feiyu's lack of strength, he would have wanted to join the Lu family's patrol hunting team to hunt demon beasts. Seeing Li Feiyu free himself from childcare to learn a trade, Lu Chongqing was also relieved. This was pretty much all he could help with at the moment. At the border between Jiang country's Ting province and Jizhou, there stood a precipitous range of hills, with eerie and oddly shaped rocks, filled with dense mists, over a bottomless cliff. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, woo woo woo, the cold wind howled in the valley and the gray mist pervaded, making one's heart palpitate. In the center, a crimson lake had now dried up. Only a huge blood cocoon and a pile of stacked bones remained. The blood-red glow on the cocoon flickered on and off like a heart beating quietly, breathing, incredibly eerie. Just then the blood cocoon emitted a dull heartbeat sound, like a giant drum vibrating, shaking the entire valley involuntarily. Moments later, in the void, an old man and a young man appeared. The young man was dressed in a wide black robe and his black hair was tied up with a wooden pin, giving him an exceptionally handsome look, a beauty that was tantalizing and marked with a maturity beyond his years. As expected of the demonic spirit root, to have integrated the demon lord's blood and completed the baptism so quickly. The young man looked at the blood cocoon and chuckled lightly, his tone full of a strange affinity. Congratulations, ancestor. Good fortune to you, ancestor. The old man immediately bowed in salute and congratulated. The young man chuckled again and lightly pointed at the blood cocoon. Suddenly, the cocoon began to crack open bit by bit, turning into specks of blood-red light, revealing the man wrapped inside. The man in his 20s had an elegant and handsome face, with skin white and smooth, but there was a half-moon blood lotus on his brow, faint yet indelible, adding a sense of wicked enchantment. He slowly regained consciousness, opening his eyes. They were different from ordinary people's, shining with a dark and blood-red light, captivating and eerie. Where am I? I remember. I think I encountered bandits and then I jumped off a cliff. Chuchanga, as if awakening from a dream with blood-red eyes full of confusion, rubbed the center of his brow. But the next moment he saw his palms had become as pale as jade, his fingernails sharp and fierce, glowing an eerie red, and he was taken aback. What is this? Then he saw the piles of white bones around him and got another shock, filled with terror. Before he could linger on his astonishment, a young man approached him and said with a laugh, "From today on, you are my disciple." Chapter 54. Only Strength is Eternal. Under for Jiang Country, Qing Province, Zhou Xian Mansion. A youth, a young man, an old man, appeared out of thin air in a desolate and dilapidated courtyard, overgrown with weeds. "Is this my home? How did my home become like this?" The young man frowned slightly as he looked at the ruined courtyard before him. It was clear that this courtyard had been uninhabited for a long time. Chu Chang'e couldn't help feeling a sense of ominous foreboding as he looked at the scene before him. He quickly circled the yard and then ran to the main entrance to confirm that this was indeed his home. Why would my parents move without reason? Even if they moved, they wouldn't just abandon the house like this. Chu Chang'e muttered to himself in a low voice, but a wrenching pain surged in his heart, causing his body to tremble uncontrollably, and his dark red eyes glowed with a bloody light as if they were filled with undried fresh blood. Trying to suppress the throbbing pain in his heart, he ran to the street and asked passers-by what had happened to the Chu family. But the passers-by who saw his blood-red dull eyes all reacted like startled rabbits, their faces changing drastically in fear as they ran away. Finally, a trembling vendor spoke out. "No one knows what sins the Chu family committed, but a year ago the entire family was murdered. As far as I know, the case remains unsolved to this day." As the words fell, boom, Chu Chang'e felt as if he had been struck by lightning, and his brain seemed to explode. He stumbled and half knelt on the ground, vomiting a mouthful of fresh blood. "No, no, no. Impossible, absolutely impossible." He couldn't believe it, mumbling in denial as images of his kind parents, his clever and innocent little sister, floated through his mind. He refused to believe that his parents, his sister, Uncle Sue and Auntie had all died. But the reality was right in front of him, leaving him with no rationale for explanation. "Ah!" Chu Chang'e let out a heart-wrenching howl to the sky, his eyes splitting with rage and tears of blood streamed down his face, full of sorrow. His face twisted in pain, and a crescent moon-like red lotus appeared on his forehead, oozing with blood, allowing strands of bloody aura in his body to run wild, and behind him the phantom of a three-headed, six-armed figure emerged in blood. Even more alarming was that his black hair turned white at a visible rate. As expected of the demonic spirit root, merely baptized by the blood of the demon lord and without even starting cultivation or full integration, he can already stimulate the demonic blood lying dormant within. In the courtyard, the youth looked at Chu Chang'e's condition and chuckled lightly. "Elder, won't he think that we had someone do this and thus harbor resentment towards us?" The old man asked cautiously. "What of resentment? Resentment gives motivation. With this child's potential, just a bit of diligent cultivation is needed, and within 100 years he can condense the demonic body. What I want is for him to condense the demonic body as fast as possible and to achieve great mastery in it," said the youth indifferently, always with a faint smile on his face. At this moment Chu Chang'e, who had been half kneeling on the ground, suddenly stood up, gasping for air, his whole body trembling as he clenched his fists and came to the middle of the courtyard. His face was fierce and his eyes bloodshot as he stared at the youth and the old man and yelled, "Was it you who did this? Insolence!" Upon hearing Chu Chang'e's words, the old man immediately rebuked him, exuding a majestic aura that made Chu Chang'e feel as if he was carrying a great weight, and he knelt down with a thump, struggling to breathe. The youth waved his hand and looked at Chu Chang'e, saying, "Today as your teacher, I'll teach you your first lesson. Don't be impulsive in anything you do. Think thrice before you act. What is the significance of you questioning me so impulsively? What difference does it make whether it was me or not me? Acts like yours are foolish. Aside from impotent rage, you cause yourself trouble and may ultimately lose your life for nothing, accomplishing nothing in the end. Remember, in this world only your own strength is eternal. You have the demonic spirit root and are baptized with the blood of the demon lord, making you an exceptional talent for the demon path. What you need to do now is to bide your time, practice cultivation in secret, and once you have the strength, you begin investigating the truth and avenging your family. However, since it's your first offense as your mentor, I will forgive and forget," the youth said in an unhurried tone. "All right, now that you have visited home, come with me." As the words of the youth fell, The three of them turned into a divine rainbow and disappeared from the courtyard. Qingzhou Valley. Within a manner, hurry not when uninvolved, self-reliant when facing injustice, peace is best but if foes rise, strike them first without surprise, personal desire leads to woes, live content then cultivate your soul. Lu Chongxing was teaching the three-character classic to Lu Pingon, Lu Wuyu and Lu Wuyo, the little fellows of the household, using a wooden board. My dear, it's time to eat. What exactly are you teaching them? At this moment Lu Miaoyun came to call Lu Chongxing for dinner. They are 3 or 4 years old now, so I made up some things for them to read as a form of enlightenment. Lu Chongxing got up with a smile, calling the group of little ones inside to have a meal. Lu Miaoyun also knew that although her husband came from a peasant family, he was always eager to learn and often read books. So it was normal for him to compile some phrases for enlightenment. However, the sentences for enlightenment sounded rather odd to her. She didn't pay it much attention, her beautiful face beamed with a sweet smile. For enlightenment there's a white deer mountain villa on Qingzhou Mountain, which has scholars hired from the secular world. You could send Pingon and the others there for their education. You are busy with many things, my husband. Let me take care of this matter, Lu Miaoyun said. Let's wait until they're a bit bigger and send them all together next year. Lu Chongxing nodded and said. The White Deer Mountain Villa was within Qingzhou Mountain, not too far away, making it feasible for the wives to take turns picking up and dropping off the children. After all, he didn't have much time to teach the children and it was not certain he could teach them well. Moreover, Lu Chongxing didn't have many expectations for the children. As long as they grew up safely and didn't cause trouble for him as their father, it was sufficient. He was not like most parents who wish for their sons to become dragons and their daughters to become phoenixes. Mainly because there wasn't much to hope for. With the system within him, he knew among these children only the 7th and 17th ones had spiritual roots. The others didn't have spiritual roots and their futures lay within the secular world. With him as their father, these children would already be better off than 90% of ordinary people in the secular world, and hard work could only get them so far. Of course, he did have some expectations. He planned for these children to practice martial arts as they grew, to achieve martial Dao innate. Then, to marry and start businesses early, establishing a martial arts family in the secular world, to branch out the Lu family. Honestly, with him as their father to support them, these two tasks were not difficult. As for children like the 7th and 17th, Lu Chongxing actually didn't have high hopes either. After all, the quality of their spiritual roots was there for all to see. He was very clear about the hardships of cultivating with such spiritual roots. Lu Chongxing didn't want his children to struggle or suffer too much. Moderation was enough. After all, one can't eat hot tofu in a hurry. His Lu family was not in a rush for quick success, focusing instead on a long-term future. Lu Chongxing didn't think much of it and went to the dining hall with Lu Miaoyun and the children for dinner. Chapter 55. Emerald Bamboo Rice Metaphysics. _1 In the middle of the dining hall, a large revolving round table was set up to seat the entire family. Of course, the children were still young and did not sit at the table. When they grew older, or should there be more wives and concubines, there would not be enough room. Husband, this emerald bamboo spirit rice was cooked for 3 hours with spiritual fire by Shaoqing. Try it and see how it tastes, said Miaoyun as she carried a small wooden barrel crafted from emerald bamboo spirit wood to serve Chongxing a bowl of rice. As Chongxing sat down at the head of the table, Lu Miaoyun scooped a bowl of rice for him from a small jade-green bamboo barrel. Each grain of rice in the bowl was vividly green and crystal clear, resembling beads of agate or jade, emitting a refreshing bamboo fragrance that tantalized the appetite. Chongxing took a bite and immediately savored the lingering taste in his mouth. After 2 more bites, he commented, "This is indeed first-grade spirit rice. The flavor is truly good. You all should try it too," Chongxing said to his wives and concubines. This emerald bamboo spirit rice had just been delivered by the Lu family the day before. It was one of the benefits given to him for his promotion to middle-grade talisman master. After becoming a middle-grade talisman master, his basic benefits did not change much. In addition to the standard monthly allowance of 10 spirit stones, 30 caddies of spirit rice, and a bottle of yellow dragon elixir, he now received an extra 20 caddies of emerald bamboo spirit rice, a special product of the Lu family. The emerald bamboo spirit rice, with every grain resembling jade, not only contains rich spiritual energy and tastes sweet but also has the effect of nurturing the body, cleansing impurities and purifying flesh and blood over long-term consumption. Ordinary grains and vegetables inevitably leave impurities settled within the body. That is why cultivators usually consume spirit rice. Emerald bamboo spirit rice is a step above ordinary spirit rice and is considered first-grade spirit rice. Even for the Lu family, the annual yield is limited. Only certain members like the family elders and guest elders receive a set portion each month. This time, due to Xianxia's advancement to middle-grade talisman master and his marriage to Lu Miaoyun, the Lu family granted him an allowance of 20 caddies per month. Beyond the reward of emerald bamboo spirit rice, the other change was that by completing the monthly talisman-making tasks assigned by the Lu family, he could now earn an additional spirit stone bonus. Unlike before where there were no rewards for completing the assigned tasks. The bonus wasn't much, but it wasn't insignificant either, currently amounting to 10 spirit stones. Moreover, for any extra talismans made beyond the quota, the Lu family agreed to purchase them at market price. This arrangement could be considered an indirect improvement in benefits, adding an incentive to perform better. Naturally, Xianxia had no objections to this and felt it was satisfactory. After all, if one were to account for it, the Lu family marrying off Lu Miaoyun to him, along with a young maidservant as part of the dowry, could also be seen as a reward. Having spent the past few days together, Xianxia grew quite fond of his young wife Miaoyun. Though she showed a bit of youthful temperament, she was very well behaved and sensible. Far from acting like a spoiled lady, she quickly became close with his other wives and concubines in the backyard, leading to a very harmonious relationship and displaying a degree of mature elegance. This pleased Xianxia greatly. Indeed, beauty does not surpass a resplendent heart. A virtuous wife supports my ambitions to soar high. For Xianxia, in terms of taking a wife or concubines, looks or physical appearance were not his primary concern. Being above average in appearance was sufficient. Spiritual root aptitude and moral character were much more important. Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband. On hearing Xianxia's words, the wives and concubines began to eat. However, there wasn't much of the emerald bamboo spirit rice, just a small barrel's worth, and after Xianxia took a generous serving for himself, the rest only took a small portion to taste. At that moment, Xiaoqing also brought out the remaining dishes on a tray. As Miaoyun's maidservant, her skills were in spirit plant cultivation and cooking. Although she wasn't a spirit chef, her cooking skills were excellent and would be considered top-notch in the mundane world. Hence, upon coming with Miaoyun, she took on the role of a junior cook. There is a spot available, Xiaoqing, come sit and eat, Xianxia said. We don't have that many rules here, he added, glancing at Xiaoqing. I'm not hungry. The clear, large eyes of Xiaoqing looked up at Lu Xianxia, and her face showed a well-behaved smile as she chirped. Xiaoqing, if your husband tells you to sit down, then sit down, said Lu Miaoyun, who also knew that her own husband wasn't one for many formalities or complex rituals. She rose to her feet, pulling on Xiaoqing's arm, and had her sit down beside them. Thank you, master, said Xiaoqing in her crisp voice, after which she also filled a bowl with rice and began to eat a little at a time. That night afterwards, husband, Lu Miaoyun, bedewed with fragrant sweat, lay weakly in Lu Xianxia's arms and said with shyness and timidity, Your concubine can't go on, let Xiaoqing come in to serve my lord. Upon hearing this, Lu Xianxia felt a warmth in his heart. His little charming wife was indeed considerate and well-behaved. It's all right, let your husband cherish Yuner first. Lu Xianxia pinched his wife's cheek and then climbed on top again. Time flew quickly, and in the blink of an eye, more than a month had passed. Through the daily nutrition and nourishment of spirit rice and spiritual wine, Lu Xianxia could clearly feel his physical condition had improved a level from before. However, regarding the 100 refinements treasure body art, there was still no progress. There was no helping it. Orthodox level body refining techniques were just like that. Powerful as they may be, the threshold for cultivation was really high. It was very difficult to get started, requiring an extremely strong physical foundation. Lu Xianxia's body, not being drained by sensual pleasures, was already quite good, but it was not nearly enough to talk about a strong physical foundation. Thus, if he wanted to cultivate the 100 refinements treasure body art, he could only rely on slowly nurturing his body and enduring with time. He estimated that, at the current pace, it would take at least 2 or 3 years to get started. Unless, as he had thought before, he could take a shortcut through the system's lucky draw and obtain a magical treasure, using the condensation method in the 100 refinements treasure body art to integrate the treasure into his body and use it to nurture himself. But that was still a bit far off. His 21st child had just been born not long ago. To enter the draw, he would need at least 9 more children. Moreover, even after having 30 children, it was not certain whether the system would give out child money. But regardless of whether the system complemented or not, Lu Chongqing always remembered that having children was the most important. With the efforts of this past month, Lu Miaoyun had also successfully conceived. Although it was said that when a female cultivator becomes pregnant, it damages the vital essence and greatly hinders cultivation, the higher-ups in the Lu family were all delighted to hear it. Because in the eyes of the Lu family's upper echelons, the more children the two had, the more stable the marriage would be, and the more firmly Lu Chongqing would be tied to the Lu family. Lu Chongqing was also very happy. With Lu Miaoyun possessing a 7th-grade spiritual root, there was a great chance that their children would have spiritual roots. Especially with the example set by Zhou Xian, he had high expectations for the child in Lu Miaoyun's womb. After Lu Miaoyun became pregnant, the family head Lu Yuanding and the 4th elder both sent over nutritional supplements. In the cultivation world, there was a rather mystical belief. If a mother's environment during pregnancy was good, with ample nutrition and sufficient spiritual energy to nourish the fetus, then the probability of the child having a spiritual root and the quality of that root would be higher. Whether this was true or not was difficult to verify. But now that he had the means, Lu Chongqing was willing to believe in this mysticism. He took out some of his spirit stones, enabling his wives and children to eat spirit rice and spirit vegetables every day. In the past, the 30 caddies of spirit rice provided by the Lu family every month were simply not enough for his entire household. He was the priority receiver. His wives and children could only occasionally eat spirit rice and vegetables. But now there had been a small improvement in the perks and benefits provided by the Lu family. Coupled with the stable income from talisman sales through Hongyi and the profits from Bullhead Mountain, Lu Chongqing could finally afford to improve the dietary conditions for his wives and children. Chapter 56. My Demon Path Big Uncle. _1 This day, Lu Chongqing received a letter. It was from Hongyi, who wrote that someone he had sent out had learned of a piece of news in Zhoushan Mansion. A strange man had appeared in the Chu family courtyard. According to his investigation, there was a high probability that this man was Chu Chang'e, because someone there recognized Chu Change's appearance. And this strange man appeared within the Chu family, asking people about what had happened there. So putting all these circumstances together, it was almost certain that this man was Chu Chang'e. But for some reason, whereas Chu Chang'e was once known for his refined and handsome scholar appearance, he had now transformed into something demonic and ominous, his eyes an extremely blood red like a monster's. In the letter, Hongyi said that after Chu Chang'e appeared, he disappeared without a trace with no further news. He suspected that Chu Chang'e had also started on the path of cultivation, but it was of the demon path and warned Lu Chongqing to be careful. Demon path. After finishing the letter, Lu Chongqing's eyes slightly narrowed. About what he knew, the cultivation world of Jiang country revered the Heavenly Sword sect. The major immortal sects, immortal cities and cultivating clans, were all seemingly righteous forces on the surface. Not one of them was from the demonic sects. Thus in Jiang country, there was no fertile ground for the existence of demonic path cultivators. On the rare occasion there were some demon cultivators, they were often loose cultivators who had obtained a demonic inheritance. Lu Chongqing never expected that his newfound uncle would take up the demon path. I wonder if this big uncle will come looking for Qingzhou Mountain. Lu Chongqing thought to himself. He certainly wasn't worried about this big uncle of his finding Qingzhou Mountain. After all, a clear conscience fears no midnight knocking. Not only had he saved Zhu Xian, but their affection for each other was mutual. Could it be that this big uncle would come to cause him trouble? Even if Chu Chang'e did not understand the true situation and came to bother him, he would still need the ability to find him. In Lu Changsheng's view, since Chu Zhenjin had an 8th grade spiritual root, even if her brother had a spiritual root, it likely wouldn't be much better. Moreover, in Jiang country, demon cultivators were akin to rats crossing the street, despised and pursued by everyone. Under these circumstances, how could he possibly come to Qingzhou Mountain to trouble him? Sigh, it seems my big uncle is also a tragic figure. Entering the path of cultivation, yet choosing the demon path, only to come home and learn of his family's destruction. Lu Chongqing heaved a sigh and shook his head. He had a rather good impression of this big uncle of his, whom he had never met. Because over the past year and more, Chu Zhenjin had told him many things from their childhood. Among these she often mentioned this inexpensive big uncle. According to Chu Zhenjin, her brother, though always studying and not one to smile or speak much, preferring to preach lofty principles, was not a rigid person. He was very affectionate towards his little sister and often helped her clean up her messes, even hiding them from their parents when she made mistakes. I won't tell Zhenjin about this for now, so she doesn't worry. If I have the capacity to help in the future, I might indeed lend a hand to this big uncle, of course, that is if he's still alive. As for now, forget about it. Lu Chongqing took a deep breath and let it out long, not dwelling further on this matter. At present he was merely a weak qi refinement 3rd level cultivator, barely surviving in Qingzhou Mountain. This big uncle of his he couldn't really help at the moment, nor did he want to trouble himself with caring. He then replied to Hong Yi with a letter, telling him not to inquire into Chu Chang's whereabouts anymore. Otherwise, if they got involved with a demon cultivator, it would be another hassle. That night, afterwards, Chu Zhenjin's cheeks were scarlet, her face flushed, her eyes dazed with enchantment as she slowly came back to her senses. She punched Lu Chongqing with her small fist and scolded, "You're terrible, forget about the 3 of us attending to you again, you only know how to bully people." Lu Miaoyun, on the other hand, was embarrassed like an ostrich tucking into its blanket, while Shao Qing, though somewhat shy, was relatively more composed and continued to attend to Lu Chongqing. Isn't it rare though? Look, your Yuner isn't saying anything, Lu Chongqing chuckled. Husband, please no more, it's so embarrassing. Lu Miaoyun buried her head in the blanket, her voice muffled and breathy. Half a month later. Husband, I've completed drawing breath into the body and have become a cultivator. This day Chu Zhenjin, with a gold hairpin and pendant on her head, and dressed in a pink and white skirt, approached Lu Chongqing with a face full of joy and excitement to report the good news. After spending more than a year in Qingzhou Mountain, the baby fat on her face had faded, her naive charm had retreated, and her tender figure had become much more alluring. On her pure and lovely face, a few traces of the charm of a wife and a mother have emerged. My Zhenjin has broken through to qi refinement 1st level? Upon hearing this news, Lu Chongqing was very happy. Since his wives possessed spiritual roots, he naturally hoped that they would all embark on the path of cultivation and accompany him for a bit longer. Leaving aside the future possibilities of becoming his supporters, at the very least, cultivation would benefit their health in many ways. The reason Chu Zhenjin had only now broken through to the 1st level of qi refinement was that pregnancy, nurturing and body recovery had delayed her cultivation. Otherwise, in Qingzhou Valley, with access to a 2nd grade spiritual vein and even without cultivation resources, she would have already achieved this breakthrough long ago. Looking at the little wife in front of him, whose every frown and smile was captivating, Lu Chongqing couldn't help but pull her into his arms and said, "To celebrate my Zhenjin becoming a cultivator, let your husband reward you handsomely." Even though she was already a mother, Chu Zhenjin's shy nature had not changed. Upon hearing these words, she immediately blushed deeply, her heart filled with embarrassment. Before she could say anything, she felt a warm kiss on her lips, followed by her body growing a bit weak. After a while, Chu Zhenjin's voice became urgent and she gasped, "Husband, let's return to the bedroom. It's fine, we're at home and there's no one around." Lu Chongqing spoke softly. Soon after, accompanied by Chu Zhenjin's coquettish stammering and rustling sounds, the small courtyard in the midst of autumn gained a touch of spring. In the following days, Lu Chongqing devoted most of his energy to Chu Zhenjin. Since Chu Zhenjin had made a breakthrough to the 1st level of qi refinement, and given that it had been 6 months since her last delivery, he naturally needed to take good care of her and start working towards the 2nd child. In the blink of an eye, the end of the month arrived. Every month's end was the day the fourth elder would hold a lecture on talisman making. That day, after getting up and finishing his breakfast, Lu Chongqing went to the fourth elder's residence. Since he had visited once before, he didn't need someone to guide the way. Lu Chongqing confidently made his way through the corridors to reach a quiet courtyard. The courtyard walls were lined with green and jade-like Qingling bamboo. In the center was a small pavilion with 5 tables and chairs placed nearby. Currently next to the pavilion, a stunning figure stood tall and straight. Her face was lovely, her eyes clear as water, dressed in a white skirt simple and elegant. Her lustrous black hair cascaded down her back, hanging softly to the waist of her snowy dress, in a striking contrast of black and white. Adorning only the simple white dress and shoes, her graceful figure and elegant bearing exuded a unique allure, carrying a breath of ethereal otherworldliness. The gentle breeze blew and strands of sunlight fell upon her, illuminating her white dress. It bathed her in a layer of sacred golden radiance, making her appear all the more divine and noble. Seeing Lu Miaoge standing as if she had stepped out from a painting, Lu Chongqing could not help but show a hint of admiration in his eyes. Perhaps it was because since the awakening of his memories, the first fairy he encountered in the cultivation realm was Lu Miaoge, giving him a special sentiment towards her in his heart. Previously, upon seeing Lu Miaoge, due to the disparity in their statuses, Lu Chongqing harbored thoughts but didn't feel much. Now, with the confidence given by the system and the rise in status of the Lu family, Lu Miaoge no longer seemed unattainable to him. Thus, every time he saw Lu Miaoge, he couldn't help but nurture thoughts he hadn't entertained before. Thoughts of conquering the celestial beauty, who seemed pure and unworldly under his body to taste at will. Sigh, no wonder many people once they have money and power become morally corrupt. Lu Chongqing shook his head internally. He had just recently married Lu Miaoyun, and now he was already harboring inappropriate thoughts toward his wife's cousin. Eldest Mississippi. Lu Chongqing didn't dwell on such thoughts. He greeted Lu Miaoge with a smile. As a talisman master of the Lu family, Lu Miaoge would come to study talisman making with the fourth elder on this day every month. As for the other Lu family disciples who were learning talisman making, because they were apprentices, the fourth elder divided the lessons into 2 groups. The morning was for Lu Miaoge and Lu Chongqing, and the afternoon was for the other Lu family disciples. Lu Chongqing. Seeing Lu Chongqing, Lu Miaoge greeted him with a light smile. Her smile was faint, as delicate as a snow lotus blooming on the mountain, quickly concealing her mirth to return to her previous serene and ethereal demeanor. This made Lu Chongqing silently think to himself that the 2 sisters were quite similar in this respect. Neither of them liked to smile much, but when they did, it was very beautiful. He didn't go over to chat or anything. Even if he harbored thoughts about Lu Miaoge, it wasn't as if he could just go up and pursue her. One reason was that his current status was not suitable for pursuing her, and besides, one doesn't chase after a girl, one attracts her. Lu Chongqing sat down at a table and chair on the side, waiting for the fourth elder to arrive. Chapter 57. Taking a talisman making class with the young Miss. _1 It wasn't long before the fourth elder arrived in the courtyard. Her hair was coiled elegantly atop her head, with streaks of silver among the black, and she was dressed in a bluish-brown dress, making her look every bit the dignified and graceful lady of high status. Grandmother. Great aunt. Lu Chongqing and Lu Miaoge immediately made a formal bow with hands clasped to the fourth elder. There's no need for so much ceremony, please sit. The fourth elder showed a warm and kind face as she waved her hand. Then turning to the 2 she spoke, Chongqing, Miaoge, show me the talismans you've been practicing most recently. Upon hearing this, both brought out their talisman-making tools and began drawing talismans. Lu Chongqing was still working on the fire cloud talisman he had first revealed. After all, when he had first revealed himself to be a first-grade middle-grade talisman master, his success rate had only been about 10% to 20%, so naturally he still needed to practice. The fourth elder glanced at the talismans being drawn. Seeing Lu Changsheng's steady wrist and confident strokes as he sketched the fire cloud talisman, she couldn't hide a look of surprise. Following, under the watchful eyes of the fourth elder, Lu Chongqing successfully completed the drawing of the fire cloud talisman. Changxing, you must have a success rate of around 60% to 70% when drawing the Fire Cloud Talisman now, right? After watching Lu Changxing's progress with the Fire Cloud Talisman, the fourth elder exclaimed with a face lit up by a trace of pleasant surprise. Lu Miaoge, who was at the side drawing her talisman, trembled slightly in her fair wrist upon hearing this, resulting in the failure of the talisman she was working on. Then she turned her bright eyes towards Lu Changxing. Her delicate face expressed clear astonishment. She was well aware that it was just 2 months ago that Lu Changxing had achieved the status of a first-grade middle-grade talisman master. In just 2 months he had improved his success rate with the first-grade middle-grade Fire Cloud Talisman to 60% to 70%. Such talent in talisman making was truly terrifying. She couldn't help recalling 3 years ago when Lu Changxing became a talisman-making apprentice, and she had accompanied Uncle Fu to assess him. She had recognized then that Lu Changxing's talent for talisman making was higher than her own. But she had never expected Lu Changxing's talisman-making talent was even greater than she had thought, so much greater. Without anyone's guidance, in just over 3 years he had become a middle-grade talisman master. Now, under the mentorship of the fourth elder, the Fire Cloud Talisman, which originally only had a success rate of 20%, had improved in just 1 month to a staggering 60% to 70% success rate. This progress was simply terrifying. Even though she was usually as calm and poised as water and was already trying to draw superior grade talismans to challenge for the superior grade talisman master title, in that moment, in front of Lu Changxing, she couldn't help feeling a sense of despondency and frustration. She pursed her lips, put aside her feelings of loss and defeat, and took out a new piece of talisman paper to start drawing again. It's all thanks to your guidance last time, grandmother. I've been practicing hard at home to achieve this success rate. Lu Changxing answered with a nod. He was unaware that his behavior had caused Lu Miaoge to feel frustrated. This display of talent with the Fire Cloud Talisman was something he had planned in advance and was part of his strategy. He wanted to make use of the pretext of the fourth elder's guidance to accelerate the unveiling of his own talents in talisman making. Excellent, excellent, that's very good. Grandmother can see that you're fairly proficient with the Fire Cloud Talisman. It's just during the transitions the drawing of the talisman lines is not quite smooth enough with spiritual power. However, with more practice and familiarity in your daily routine, that should improve. The fourth elder said, praising Lu Changxing after hearing his words. She continued to address Lu Changxing. Then today, grandmother will teach you how to draw the Windwalking Talisman. The Windwalking Talisman, like the Fire Cloud Talisman, is a first-grade middle-grade talisman. In terms of difficulty, it's slightly more challenging than the Fire Cloud Talisman. Thank you, grandmother. Lu Changxing spoke respectfully. He had no preference over which talisman to learn or practice, and simply followed the fourth elder's arrangements. One reason was that he did not care much. Another was that it was part of the terms of the spiritual contract with the Lu family. He had to follow the Lu family's arrangements and practice the respective talismans. The Windwalking Talisman is different from the Fire Cloud Talisman. It emphasizes softness, not just in the brushwork but also in the output of spiritual power, carrying a sense of roundness. A critical point with the Windwalking Talisman is that every time you reach a turning point, the brushwork should be light and smooth, and the spiritual power must be continuously bounced out in a gentle stream. The fourth elder explained the essentials of the Windwalking Talisman to Lu Changxing. She then drew a Windwalking Talisman on the spot, allowing Lu Changxing to sense the fluctuations of spiritual power on it and to imitate the lines drawn upon it. Yes, grandmother. Seeing this, Lu Changxing nodded and picked up a stack of blank papers from the table to familiarize himself with the talisman lines. When starting to draw a new talisman, it is common to practice drawing talisman lines on blank paper first, before trying to create it on real talisman paper. Starting directly with talisman paper would generally be wasteful, as failure was almost certain at that stage. Of course, for someone exceptional like Lu Changxing it was a different case. But in front of the fourth elder, he naturally still presented himself as earnestly learning. Then the fourth elder turned her attention towards Lu Miaoge, who was in the process of talisman making, only to see that Lu Miaoge's talisman had failed again. Knowing that Lu Miaoge was still unfamiliar with the talisman she was drawing, the speaker outlined the key points. Miaoga, the golden light barrier talisman, values firmness as the main aspect, with softness as a supplement. The strokes must be soft, yet firm, and the output of spiritual power must also be strong and powerful. When you make the first stroke, your touch and spiritual power should be like cotton wrapped around iron. At the first turn of the talisman line, you need to add a bit more gathering feel while your spiritual power should release. After the 9th turn, the power must flow continuously without end. Making talismans with higher grades of talismans becomes more difficult and complex. The process of beginning, continuing, turning, and concluding every stroke and line follows very strict standards. Just the technique of making the initial stroke includes a great deal of specifics, such as being robust and powerful, firm yet soft, soft yet firm, a combination of strength and gentleness, and so on, extremely complex. Like the golden light barrier talisman that Lu Miaoga was drawing, it is a superior grade first grade talisman, very complex, and a notch above middle grade talismans. Yes, 4th grandmother. Hearing this, Lu Miaoga nodded, her delicate features showing a concentrated expression as she continued to lean over and draw the talisman. But halfway through, the talisman paper emitted blue smoke, signifying failure. Miaoga, when you were tracing the talisman lines, your stroke was too forceful, which clashed with the spiritual power, leading to failure. Come feel my spiritual power, the force. The 4th elder pointed out the mistake. She immediately took hold of Lu Miaoga's hand and slowly drew out the golden light barrier talisman. Lu Chongqing also glanced over in their direction. He could see that the 4th elder was indeed skilled in talisman making. At the very least, she was very familiar with the golden light barrier talisman. Otherwise, it wouldn't be possible to guide someone like this in drawing a talisman. Miaoga, using that sensation, try again. After the 4th elder led Lu Miaoga through the completion of the golden light barrier talisman, she spoke. Your spiritual power didn't fully envelop the stroke. To be focused on a point, try a few more times. After watching, the 4th elder gave her feedback. And so it went. Under the 4th elder's tutelage, a morning passed. That morning, neither Lu Chongqing nor Lu Miaoga succeeded in creating any new talismans. But they had at least gained an introductory understanding of these types of talismans and grasped their essentials. Next, they just needed to go back and practice more to become more familiar. Chapter 58. Zhou Xian's second child, breakthrough elixir. Under one time flew by, and in the blink of an eye, more than half a month had passed. Zhou Xian, who had been receiving special attention from Lu Chongqing, ran to him and said, "Husband, I think I am pregnant." "Pregnant? Let me see." Lu Chongqing, hearing this, was overjoyed and placed his head against Zhou Xian's belly. Of course, at this time there were no fetal movements yet. But as a cultivator, Lu Chongqing could faintly sense the new life being nurtured within her stomach. Good, 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 indeed you are pregnant. Come here, Xianxian, let your husband give you a kiss." Seeing that Zhou Xian was pregnant, Lu Chongqing's mood soared. He caressed his delicate wife's cheek and kissed her tender lips fiercely. In the courtyard there were other sisters present. They couldn't help but cover their mouths and giggle at the scene, leaving Zhou Xian blushing. Feeling slightly embarrassed and annoyed, she gave her husband a playful punch. Her fair and charming face was flushed red with shyness, utterly irresistible. Yet this hint of girlish shyness, coupled with Zhou Xian's charm as a wife and mother-to-be, was both pure and enticing. It set Lu Chongqing's heart ablaze, making him wish he could take his lovely wife right then and there. However, seeing how happy her husband was, Zhou Xian's blushing face also revealed a smile of pure happiness and contentment. Now that both Lu Miaoyun and Zhou Xian were pregnant, Lu Chongqing felt extremely contented, feeling that life was becoming ever more promising. He looked forward eagerly to the birth of his children by the two delicate wives. He also thought of the two beloved concubines who hadn't been pregnant yet, and a maidservant with a spiritual root. But since Lu Miaoyun was only a little over a month pregnant, he wasn't in a hurry for the maidservant Xiaoqing to become pregnant. After all, if a maidservant became pregnant around the same time as his wife, it wouldn't be quite appropriate. It might seem like a competition for favor. Although Lu Chongqing himself didn't really care. But after all, they were in the Lu family and it was better to be cautious. Therefore he planned to focus his attention on the two favored concubines next. Regarding these two concubines, Lu Chongqing was also somewhat curious. If they were to get pregnant and have children, he wondered if the children's hair and eye colors would resemble his own or their mother's. In the blink of an eye, it was the end of the month, the day the fourth elder taught talisman making. When the fourth elder inspected the progress of Lu Miaoge and Lu Chongqing on their talismans, Lu Chongqing directly took out a wind-walking talisman he had drawn and said to the fourth elder, "Grandmother, I successfully made the wind-walking talisman yesterday." "What? You made the wind-walking talisman?" The fourth elder, upon hearing this, was initially stunned. Then, looking at the talisman in Lu Changsheng's hand, her face lit up with delight. She hadn't expected that in just a month, Lu Chongqing would have succeeded in making the wind-walking talisman. You must know that the most difficult part of talisman making is the first step, moving from nothing to something. Once the first step is successful, the subsequent process from 1 to 10 becomes much simpler. Lu Miaoge, standing beside them, also looked at Lu Chongqing with immense surprise upon hearing this. These past 2 months, she had hardly made any significant progress on her golden light barrier talisman. Though the talisman she was practicing was a superior grade talisman, back when she was at Lu Changsheng's current level, it took her roughly 3 months to succeed with the golden light insignia, which was equivalent to the wind-walking talisman in difficulty. Yet now, Lu Chongqing had managed to successfully make the wind-walking talisman in just 1 month. Lu Miaoge bit her lip gently, feeling somewhat disheartened by the blow. In talisman making, her talent was already considered quite good. Otherwise, among the many Lu family disciples, she wouldn't have been the only talisman master, and she was even on the verge of breaking through to become a first-grade superior talisman master. The fourth elder had told her that she had a real gift for talisman making, with the potential to become a second-grade talisman master one day. But at this moment, her formerly pride-worthy talent in talisman making was completely crushed by Lu Chongqing. She could already foresee the day when she would be surpassed by him. The fourth elder took the wind-walking talisman from Lu Changsheng's hands. Her fingers traced it inch by inch, feeling both the strokes and the flow of spiritual power within it. "You don't have any issues with drawing the lines for the talisman. Your grip and drawing are exceptionally steady, which shows a rare talent," she said. "However, regarding spiritual power, there's a lot left to be desired in terms of proficiency and stability. For instance, this particular point here has a clear issue. Any carelessness could lead to failure, and then there's..." The fourth elder provided a detailed critique of Lu Changsheng's talisman, pointing out the specific issues. She then said, "Chongqing, draw another wind-walking talisman for me to see." "Yes, grandmother." Lu Chongqing responded and took out a sheet of talisman paper to begin drawing. However, not even halfway through, the talisman started to give off blue smoke. Another failure. At this point, the spiritual power must be wrapped tightly around the brush strokes, but after making a turn, it must be released immediately with a spring in the motion. The fourth elder said out loud, indicating for Lu Chongqing to continue. After that, Lu Chongqing failed again. He had just started yesterday, so his success rate for making talismans should be at most 10%. Naturally, he couldn't show himself to be too skilled. Under the guidance of the fourth elder, Lu Chongqing failed 2 more times. Upon seeing this, the fourth elder didn't say much. She simply comforted him. "It's okay, you're just a bit nervous and you have just started. Familiarize yourself with it and you'll be fine. Come, grandmother will guide you through drawing a talisman once more." Afterward, she held Lu Changsheng's hand again and helped him draw the wind-walking talisman. "Thank you, grandmother. Chongqing will definitely work hard and not disappoint you," Lu Chongqing said to the fourth elder. "Good child, I am already very satisfied with your performance. Grandmother believes that as long as you work hard, you will surely become a second-ranked talisman master in the future," the fourth elder said kindly. She was very satisfied with her grandson-in-law Lu Chongqing. Not only did he have exceptional talent in talisman making, but he was also very steady and treated her granddaughter well. The only fault she could find was that he had too many wives and children. He spent too much time thinking about marrying and having offspring. In her opinion, if Lu Chongqing could concentrate all his efforts on talisman making and focus on the talisman path, he could go much further in the future. "By the way, Chongqing, you've been at the 3rd level of qi refinement for a while now, haven't you?" Suddenly the fourth elder turned to Lu Chongqing and asked. Yes, grandmother. I reached the peak of the third level in Qi refinement 8 months ago. But as you know, my spiritual root is only 9th grade, Lu Chongqing responded, unable to suppress a wry smile. He had been at the peak of third level in Qi refinement 8 months prior. He had not slacked in his cultivation since then, but he had felt no loosening of his bottleneck. With lower grade spiritual roots, each bottleneck was a barrier. If you need it, grandmother can apply to the family for a breakthrough elixir for you, the fourth elder said after a slight pause. The transition from the third to the fourth level of Qi refinement marks the progression from the early stages to the middle stages. A significant hurdle. The poorer the quality of the spiritual root, the harder it is to break through. In such cases, apart from relying on time to grind through, one can also seek help from breakthrough elixir medicines to overcome the bottleneck. Thank you, grandmother, but I would still like to continue trying to break through on my own, Lu Chongqing said, politely refusing. The second young lady also seemed cold and noble on the outside, but her true character didn't match that at all. Lu Chongqing chuckled softly, not taking it too to heart, and headed home. Chapter 59. 8th grade spiritual root. 6th lottery draw under one time flew by. That day Lu Changsheng's 22nd child was born. Like most children, he was without a spiritual root. Now for a child to be without spiritual root, Lu Chongqing had grown accustomed to it, completely without expectation. If the child had a spiritual root, it would be a pleasant surprise. However, surprises like that tend to arrive so suddenly, so unexpectedly. 1 month later, when Lu Changsheng's 23rd child was born, he was seized by a deeply mystical tremor. It was the tremor of the child having a spiritual root. Moreover, this particular tremor gave him an indescribable sense of mystery throughout his body. It gave Lu Chongqing a premonition. His spiritual root had advanced. With the addition of this child's spiritual root, his own had risen from a 9th grade to an 8th grade. At that instant, a system notification sound rang out. Congratulations to the host for the birth of 3 children with spiritual roots, receiving 1 lottery draw opportunity. Good, good, good. The tremor from the improvement in spiritual root and the system notification sound filled Lu Chongqing with immense joy and excitement. He had not expected that, with no expectations whatsoever, this child would possess a spiritual root and elevate his own to the 8th grade. And at the same time, the system had come through with a bonus of child money. Such unexpected and surprising good fortune, or really 2 instances of such surprises, filled him with unstoppable excitement and joy. Husband, what's wrong? His wives, unaware of what had happened to Lu Chongqing, didn't understand why he suddenly appeared so joyful. Lu Chongqing realized that he had gotten a bit carried away with excitement. Mainly because the surprise had come so unexpectedly, so suddenly, that he hadn't managed to keep his composure. An issue with talisman that had troubled me for quite a while just suddenly became clear to me, so I got a little excited for a moment, he said with a smile. Congratulations, husband. Congratulations, husband. Congratulations, husband. Hearing his words, several of his wives also showed smiling faces, voicing their congratulations without any suspicion or further thought. What's there to congratulate? Our Lu family has been blessed with another son. That's the true cause for celebration, said Lu Chongqing, waving his hand. Internally, he couldn't help but think that he still needed to temper his state of mind further, to be unshaken even if Mount Tai crumbled before him. Otherwise, if such situations became more frequent, it would be easy for others to detect something amiss. He walked into the birthing room, immediately spotting the midwife holding a swaddle. Congratulations, young master, it's a girl, the midwife said to Lu Chongqing. A girl, eh? That's good too, considering the previous 2 were boys, Lu Chongqing remarked, unfazed. He didn't have a strong preference for sons or daughters. He took the child from the midwife's arms. Perhaps because he had become a cultivator, had been practicing the immortal beauty technique, and due to the improved conditions for the child's mother during pregnancy, the child looked much cuter than an ordinary newborn, not as wrinkled. Even knowing that this child possessed a spiritual root, Lu Chongqing was very happy inside, but he didn't show it too obviously or distinctly at that moment. After looking at the child for a while, Lu Chongxing left and went to his study. The child's birth this time has prompted the system to give child money, indicating that the achievement of having a number of children with spiritual roots is different from the achievement of total number of children, he thought to himself. That's to be expected. The difficulty of having children with spiritual roots is noticeably higher. I wonder what the next number will be, 5? Or perhaps 10? Lu Chongxing pondered. He didn't dwell on it. If he fixated on such things, setting expectations in his heart would only make it easier to be disappointed. It was better to let things take their natural course. After all, even if the system didn't bestow child money, he would still want this child. Immediately, Lu Chongxing began the part he was most looking forward to. System, I want to draw a prize. Easily. A pale red virtual prize wheel emerged. I wonder what he'll get this time, hopefully a magical treasure. Gazing at the prize wheel before him, Lu Chongxing took a deep breath. Due to the 100 Refinements treasure body art, he now had a particularly strong desire for magical treasures. He wanted to see if he could get a magical treasure directly from the system wheel to practice the 100 Refinements treasure body art. After all, cultivation techniques could give him all kinds of strange and wonderful abilities. But as long as a magical treasure was decent enough, it would suffice for practicing the 100 Refinements treasure body art. Start the draw. With a thought, golden light began to spin on the pale red wheel. After waiting 5 seconds, the wheel gradually slowed down. Under Lu Changsheng's slightly nervous and anticipatory gaze, the golden light settled on other. Ding. Congratulations to the host for obtaining the goo insect peach blossom goo. The reward has been sent to the system space, and the host can check it at any time. A pattern resembling a butterfly with 2 peach blossom petals emerged from the big wheel, accompanied by a system notification sound. A goo insect peach blossom goo? Lu Chongxing was somewhat surprised to see this reward. He wasn't too disappointed at not getting the cultivation technique or magical treasures he wanted. After all, he had been disappointed so many times before. A lottery drawing like this, how could it possibly go according to one's wishes? The days ahead were long and there would be plenty of chances to draw prizes. As long as he worked hard, he would eventually get the rewards he wanted. He looked at the peach blossom goo in the system space. Goo insect, peach blossom goo, quality, sky spirit goo. Description: a peculiar goo created by the peach blossom immortal, a cultivator of goo arts. It can improve the host's skin and enhance their charisma, creating an extremely attractive appearance to the opposite sex, and it can also increase the host's fortune in romantic affairs. Lu Chongxing didn't know much about goo insects. He only knew that among the various arts of cultivation, there were factions similar to beast taming, such as poison goo, corpse refining, ghost nurturing, and so on. He hadn't really looked into this particular area. But, trusting the system and seeing the word sky spirit goo along with the description of its effects, he felt that this peach blossom goo was not ordinary. It was definitely an exceptional goo insect. First the immortal beauty technique and now this peach blossom goo? Does this mean that in the future, I'm destined to rely on my looks to live a life of ease? Lu Chongxing smacked his lips. Having experienced the changes brought on by the immortal beauty technique, he was quite looking forward to the effects of the peach blossom goo and thought it was very good. After all, he had been practicing the immortal beauty technique for over 3 years to achieve such handsomeness. Now with the peach blossom goo added to the mix, wouldn't he be the dream of millions of fairies in the cultivation world? Especially since the appearance enhancement from the peach blossom goo was targeted at the opposite sex. Not only was it targeted at the opposite sex, but it could also enhance one's romantic fortune. Handsome with good romantic luck, wouldn't that be a killer combination? It was simply made to measure for a future where he would be surrounded by wives and consorts, the nemesis of fairies and witches. Romantic fortune. Although the concept of fate is mentioned in the cultivation world, it is nebulous and mysterious, with no detailed explanations. Most books only mention that some people are born with great fate and can turn misfortune into blessing in whatever they do. They might even stumble upon treasures when leaving their homes, charging ahead on the path of cultivation, advancing triumphantly and rapidly. Even though this peach blossom goo can't improve a person's overall fate, it can enhance someone's romantic fortune. I wonder if with this goo my future cultivation journey will be blessed with continued romantic success? When the time comes, I should look into more about fate and information on goo insects. Lu Chongxing thought to himself. Although he enjoyed reading various books, he only had surface-level knowledge about the concept of fate and topics like gu insects, which were considered unorthodox. Now that he had obtained this peach blossom gu, he was thinking of delving deeper into related knowledge. Without further thought, Lu Chongxing willed it and extracted the peach blossom gu from the system space. If this peach blossom gu had not been obtained through the system lottery with my current cultivation strength, I would not have been able to refine it at all, nor would it have been possible to succeed in the refinement, not to mention there might have been a backlash injuring myself. He couldn't help but shake his head. For the past hour he had used all his spiritual power to refine the peach blossom gu. Yet his spiritual power was depleted, and he had refined less than 1/10 of the peach blossom gu. Bear in mind this was while the peach blossom gu was fully cooperative. If the peach blossom gu had offered even a slight resistance, he would have encountered an insurmountable challenge in refining it. However, this also shows that this peach blossom gu is even more extraordinary. It is not a gu that an ordinary energy refinement cultivator can come into contact with, and only a cheat like me with the help of the system could obtain something far beyond one's own stage, he mused. Now is a good time to restore my spiritual power and see what changes have occurred after my spiritual root advanced to 8th grade. Lu Chongxing began to sit in meditation, cultivating and restoring his spiritual power. He also wanted to see what changes had taken place after his spiritual root progressed from 9th grade to 8th grade. An hour went by. Lu Chongxing opened his eyes. After the meditation he found that his cultivation speed had not significantly increased after his 9th grade spiritual root advanced to 8th grade. It had only improved by about 10%. The cultivation speed of an 8th grade spiritual root is almost 30% faster than that of a 9th grade spiritual root. With the previous addition from Xiaoqi and Xiaoshi, my spiritual root was already close to 8th grade. So now with this daughter's boost, even though my spiritual root has advanced from 9th grade to 8th grade, the improvement isn't large. A cultivation speed increase of about 10% also implies that this child's spiritual root is a lower grade. Spiritual root, probably similar to Xiaoxi's, a 7th grade or 8th grade spiritual root, Lu Chongxing silently contemplated. But he didn't feel any sense of loss. After all, whether it was a 9th grade or 8th grade spiritual root, they both belonged to the lower grade spiritual roots. The difference between the two wasn't too significant. Thus, advancing from 9th grade to 8th grade spiritual root was unlikely to bring a dramatic qualitative change. However, Chuangxing saw the advancement of his spiritual root from 9th grade to 8th grade as a milestone. At the very least he had taken the first step. The first step in upgrading the spiritual root. In the future, as long as more children possess a spiritual root, his spiritual root would eventually be able to advance step by step, ascending from a lower grade spiritual root to middle grade, then upper grade. Even the legendary Earth Spirit Root, Heavenly Spiritual Root. Spiritual roots are not only related to the speed of cultivation but also to the bottlenecks in cultivation. After my 9th grade spiritual root advanced to the 8th grade, I wonder how much it will help me break through the bottleneck at the 4th level energy refinement. Lu Chongxing couldn't help but think to himself. Beyond influencing the speed of cultivation, the grade of a spiritual root also affects the cultivation bottlenecks. The better the spiritual root, the weaker the bottleneck. Like now, he was stuck at the bottleneck of breaking through from the 3rd level energy refinement to the 4th level. But with a middle grade spiritual root, this bottleneck might not even exist. Previously, Lu Chongxing read in a book that for spiritual roots of the level of Earth Spirit Root and Heavenly Spiritual Root, there is no such thing as a bottleneck from the entire Qi refinement all the way to the foundation establishment stage. It's a completely unobstructed journey of cultivation, and in the future it would be possible to break through to the core formation stage. And to condense a superior gold core. Lu Chongxing didn't continue to dwell on these thoughts as they were still far too distant from him. He rose from his study and went into the practice room to continue his cultivation and replenish his spiritual power. The next day, Lu Chongxing got up and went to the library at Qingzhou Villa, searching for books on the topics of destiny and the way of the Gu. However, within the Lu family, there were no books on the concept of destiny, and the gu way was also not detailed in any of the books. Only in an ancient tome did he find a brief introduction to gu insects. For example, the quality of gu insects was divided into mundane gu, spirit gu, mysterious spirit gu, earth spirit gu, heavenly spirit gu, and immortal gu, 6 levels in total. With immortal gu being of a level like that of the true spirit bloodline in demon beasts, it naturally belonged to the realm of legend. Even the earth spirit gu and heavenly spirit gu were the stuff of legends, extremely rare. This gave Lu Chongxing a rough idea of just how precious the peach blossom gu was. It was probably close to a 9 netherhound with a heavenly grade bloodline. Furthermore, gu insects can continuously transform and grow, divided from low to high into first transformation, second transformation, third transformation, fourth transformation, fifth transformation, corresponding to the cultivator's stages of qi refinement realm, foundation establishment stage, core formation stage, nascent soul stage, divinity transformation stage. Like the peach blossom gu that Lu Chongxing acquired, it naturally belonged to the first transformation. In the time that followed, besides daily meditation and cultivation talisman making, Lu Chongxing also found time to refine and fuse with the peach blossom gu. Thinking of quickly assimilating the peach blossom gu to see its exact effects. After all, Lu Chongxing was quite looking forward to improving himself and his peach blossom luck. Half a month later, Lu Chongxing finally fully assimilated the peach blossom gu. At this moment he felt a strange connection with the peach blossom gu in front of him. It was as if the peach blossom gu had become a part of his body. At the same time he came to understand the peach blossom gu in detail. Peach blossom gu feeds on peach blossom luck. The more prosperous the host's peach blossom luck, the faster the peach blossom gu would grow. With every growth and transformation of the peach blossom gu, the host's peach blossom luck would become increasingly vibrant. However, the growth and transformation of the peach blossom gu would be impacted and limited by its master. If the master has not broken through to the foundation establishment stage, then no matter how much peach blossom luck the gu consumes, it cannot advance to second transformation. Currently, the peach blossom gu possesses 3 effects. The first 2 are the passive effects introduced in the system explanation before. It can subtly improve the host's physique, making the skin more radiant and the aura stand out, thus becoming more attractive to the opposite sex. Simultaneously, it unconsciously boosts the host's peach blossom luck. Both of these effects are passive. The first one will gradually show some effects. The second, peach blossom luck, is more elusive and intangible. The third effect of the peach blossom gu is an active one. By activating the peach blossom gu, it can release a fragrance known as 5 aggregates peach blossom miasma. This aroma has the effect of bewildering and enchanting the mind. Both people and animals as well as plants will be influenced. As for the impact, it depends on the strength of the gu insect. As the peach blossom gu is currently only at the first transformation, the power and effects of the 5 aggregates peach blossom miasma correspond to the qi refinement realm. Chapter 61. The father of 30 children breaks through to the 4th layer of qi refinement. Condition: could it be that this peach blossom immortal is some kind of flower thief? Otherwise, what upstanding person would cultivate such a gu? Not only does it shape an attractive appearance to the opposite sex, but it also enhances one's peach blossom luck, and employs such despicable methods. Having fully grasped the effects of the peach blossom gu, Lu Chongxing couldn't help but shake his head. However, he did not mind these aspects. After all, whether something is good or bad depends on the user. Being an upright gentleman like himself, even if the peach blossom gu was indecent, he would put it to good use. The next moment Lu Chongxing put away the peach blossom gu. The peach blossom gu flew directly to the center of his forehead, forming a pink peach blossom petal mark on his brow. In the time that followed, this peach blossom gu would subtly improve his physical condition and imperceptibly boost his peach blossom luck. Lu Chongxing touched the peach blossom mark on his forehead and with a thought, the mark immediately dimmed and disappeared from view. Normally, if he didn't use the peach blossom gu, this peach blossom mark could stay hidden from view. It would only appear when he used the 5 accumulations peach blossom miasma. Otherwise, it would be rather odd and somewhat effeminate for a grown man to have a peach blossom mark on his forehead. I'm here on Qingzhou Mountain all day and never go out. I wonder if this peach blossom luck will be of any use? Thinking about that young miss, Lu Chongqing couldn't help but feel a sense of expectation. He left the practice room to see that the night had already grown dark outside. Lu Chongqing went to a secluded courtyard, picked up Jiu'er and Shui'er, his two favored concubines, and carried them to the bedchamber to start his efforts. He had been giving both of them special attention lately, but neither had become pregnant yet. Lu Chongqing was not concerned about this. He had checked and found nothing wrong with the women's health. They were fertile. With persistent efforts, success would come sooner or later. Moreover, such matters were not only about the results, but also about fully experiencing and savoring the process. Afterward, hiss, Lu Chongqing lay back comfortably on the bedchamber, his palm gently stroking the two women's red and blue hair as smooth as satin. Despite having shared the bed and been attended to many times over such a long period, he still found himself insatiable, feeling immense enjoyment. 6 days later, Lu Chongqing found out that Shui'er had successfully conceived, and there was a new breath of life in her womb. Likewise, after his nightly unwavering efforts, 1 month later, Jiu'er also successfully conceived. Counting the children in the wombs of these two favored concubines, Lu Chongqing calculated that the total number of his children was exactly 30. Not long ago his 24th child was born. That meant that once the remaining 6 children were born, the system might give out child money. He was still very much looking forward to the system's child money. After all, at this stage he couldn't count on his children at all, and could only rely on the system to lend him a hand. In the blink of an eye, another month had passed. He had been refining the peach blossom goo for over 2 months now. At first, Lu Chongqing had been quite expectant of the peach blossom goo. But as the 2 months passed, he felt that he hadn't undergone any changes, nor had the so-called peach blossom luck appeared. This caused his anticipation to nearly vanish. He no longer paid any attention to the peach blossom goo. After all, in terms of appearance, he was already so handsome that any enhancement from the peach blossom goo would be just gilding the lily for him. As for peach blossom luck, such a nebulous thing wasn't something he had any expectations for. On this day, inside the practice room, while Lu Chongqing was sitting in meditation and refining qi, he suddenly felt a throb. The bottleneck where he had been stuck at the 3rd level energy refinement for a year finally showed a trace of loosening. The 4th elder had provided him with guidance on his cultivation practices, helping him understand that this sense of loosening was the opportunity to break through from the 3rd level energy refinement to the 4th level. He instantly took out a yellow dragon elixir from his storage bag and swallowed it, then grasped several spirit stones, closed his eyes to concentrate, and rapidly circulated the returning origin technique. No sooner had the elixir entered his body than it dissolved, rapidly depleting under the operation of spiritual power, as spiritual energy from the spirit stones in his hand surged into his body. Lu Chongqing's spiritual power circulated faster and faster, his spiritual pressure grew greater and greater, even carrying a sense of irresistibility. After a long time, boom! Lu Chongqing's entire body shook violently, his hair and vestment robe dancing. Filth was secreted from his pores, making his body suddenly feel as light as if it were floating. The spiritual energy in his Dantian Sea was no longer strand by strand. Instead, it intertwined like streams. 4th level energy refinement, spiritual energy like streams, the body excretes worldly filth. I've finally broken through to the middle stage of energy refinement. Lu Chongqing opened his eyes, feeling the stream-like spiritual power circulating within him. A sense of joy naturally emerged. A year ago he had already practiced up to the peak of the 3rd level energy refinement. But he had been stuck for a full year until today when he was finally able to break through. He felt that if it weren't for his 9th grade spiritual root advancing to an 8th grade more than 2 months ago, he would probably have been stuck for even longer. No wonder Hong Yi remained at the 3rd level energy refinement for 3 or 4 years without breaking through to the 4th level. Lu Chongqing also understood why Hong Yi had stayed at this realm for so long. In Qingzhou Valley he enjoyed the benefits of a 2nd grade spiritual vein. His meals consisted of jade bamboo rice, demon beast meat and spiritual vegetables. He drank spiritual tea and occasionally indulged in spiritual wine, and every month he had a yellow dragon elixir to assist his cultivation. Even under these circumstances he was still trapped by the bottleneck for so long. Although Hong Yi had an 8th grade spiritual root, in the secular world where spiritual energy was scarce and resources limited, and he was busy with errands, breaking through the bottleneck was even harder. This also made him think of Xianxia, who had broken through to the 4th level energy refinement during their 3-year agreement. Thinking about it now, it could only be said that a 4th grade spiritual root was truly terrifying. If it were an upper grade spiritual root or the legendary earth spirit root, heavenly spiritual root, how terrifying they would be. Lu Chongqing didn't think too much about it, stood up, and used a cleansing technique to remove the impurities and filth excreted from his body during the breakthrough. Then he walked out of the practice room somewhat excitedly. It was winter at this time and snowflakes were fluttering outside with a layer of pure white snow covering the ground. Although his Qingzhu robe offered protection against the heat and cold, the sudden opening of the door and the cold wind that blew in still made Lu Chongqing feel a hint of chill. But it was only a momentary chill. The spiritual power within his body and the vestment robe he wore made the cold dissipate immediately. Unknowingly, I've also been at the Lu family for 5 years. Lu Chongqing looked at the green, vigorous and sturdy Qingzhu bamboos amidst the snowflakes. He thought of the time when he had awakened his previous lives' memories on the heart-questioning platform, after being eliminated by the Qingyun sect's examination. He chose to become a son-in-law who entered the Lu family by marriage. Over the past 5 years, relying on his relentless efforts, he had cultivated from an ordinary person to the 4th level energy refinement. He had also fought from being a breeding son-in-law in the Lu family to a son-in-law who married the granddaughter of an elder. Lu Chongqing walked slowly to the front courtyard, seeing a few children in padded jackets running around in the snow playing. A faint smile appeared on his face. These were the fruits of his 5 years of hard work. Chapter 62. Daily Life under one. In the courtyard, a group of children were playing. Daddy! A little girl dressed in a red cotton padded jacket and fur coat, sitting on a swing and nibbling on a hawthorn stick, called out crisply when she saw Lu Chongqing. She then hopped off the swing and ran to Lu Chongqing with her little short legs, pitter-pattering away. She handed the hawthorn stick to Lu Chongqing and said with a smile, "Daddy, it's so sweet." A smile spread across Lu Chongqing's face as he tasted a hawthorn stick. Indeed, it was very sweet to the core. Casting a glance at Lu Pingon and his sons, who were playing joyfully with the 9 netherhound, Lu Chongqing couldn't help but huff in mock annoyance before scooping up his daughter. He held her slightly cold hands and said softly, "Come, it's cold outside, let's go play inside." Daughters really are more considerate. Lu Chongqing carried his daughter Lu Xile into the main hall. There were several braziers placed on each side of the hall with charcoal burning to dispel the chill. His wives and concubines were happily chatting together. However, there were always a few toddlers who had just learned to walk wandering about. Not only did they seem like they could fall at any moment, but they also liked to pick up anything they saw and stuff it into their mouths, requiring constant vigilance. Da-da-da. At that moment, little Qi Lu Xinji rode over on a mechanical wooden horse and signaled to Lu Chongqing to move aside. Lu Chongqing saw this and stood his ground, refusing to move. Then Lu Xinji charged at Lu Chongqing with the mechanical wooden horse. The result was the whole person along with the mechanical wooden horse toppled over, leading to a fall on the ground with a pout forming on the little lips as if about to cry. Lu Chongqing couldn't help laughing at the sight. He immediately manipulated the mechanical wooden horse with his object manipulating technique to move Da-da-da around his son. Lu Xinji, who was about to cry, stopped upon seeing this scene. He climbed back onto the wooden horse and ran around happily under Lu Chongqing's control, his face brimming with joy. This child had a spiritual root, but he was not precocious or particularly sensible and was just like a normal child. "Daddy, hug." Little Ten, who was playing nearby, saw Lu Chongqing and staggered over with his little short legs, arms outstretched, asking. With one hand holding Lu Xile, Lu Chongqing picked up little Ten with the other. Seeing her holding a white jade bun, he said, "Give Daddy a bite." Little Ten thought for a moment, then lifted the bun in her hand to him. "Daddy will show you how to eat a big bun in one bite." Lu Chongqing said, and in one bite devoured the white jade bun that was as big as an adult's fist from little Ten's hand. He astonished Lu Shila, Little Ten, and a few other small ones nearby who all stared with wide eyes. But the next moment Little Ten looked down at her empty hand. Where's my bun? Looking at Lu Chongqing smacking his mouth, she pursed her lips in a pout, her face on the verge of tears. It was as if she was saying, "You ate such a big bun all by yourself without leaving me any. Husband, why do you always like to tease the children?" Lu Miaoyun, with her belly bulging, walked over and chided. Every time Lu Chongqing came over, he would tease the children until they cried and then make them happy again. She thought he was truly idle to no end. Speaking of which, she took a white jade bun from a bamboo steamer nearby and handed it to Little Ten, a motherly smile spreading across her face. "Here you are, be good, no crying. Kids are meant to be played with," Lu Chongqing said nonchalantly, also taking a white jade bun to eat. The bun tasted very nice, made of flour ground from white jade spirit wheat. Now that he could afford it, aside from everyday meals, Lu Chongqing would also buy lots of spiritual materials and spirit food to keep at home for his wife and children to enjoy some sweet treats, prepared by their maid, Qingzhu. With such a diet every day and living on Qingzhu Mountain, the health of his wives and the little ones had improved significantly, robustly vigorous. Not to mention, children brought up this way were bound to become martial arts prodigies as they grew up. "Husband, your aura, you've broken through to the middle stage of energy refinement?" At this moment Lu Miaoyun looked at Lu Chongqing, a touch of surprise on her face as she spoke. Having lived with Lu Chongqing all the time, she naturally noticed the change in the spiritual power aura emanating from him, which had become much more substantial than usual. "That's right, after grinding for so long, I've finally broken through this barrier," Lu Chongqing said with a smile, nodding his head. "Congratulations, husband, on breaking through to the middle stage of energy refinement." Lu Miaoyun's face lit up with a smile. She hugged Lu Changsheng's arm and gave it a playful shake, her sparkling eyes full of admiration as she spoke. "Congratulations to my husband. Congratulations to my husband on your breakthrough to the middle stage of qi refinement. Congratulations to my husband on another step forward on the path of immortality." A group of wives and concubines congratulated Lu Chongqing one after another. "Wow! Daddy is so amazing. Congratulations, Daddy. Congratulations, Daddy." The children, seeing their mothers doing so, also gathered around Lu Chongqing, chirping and shouting excitedly. Lu Chongqing laughed heartily. Then, with a smile all over his face, he waved his hand and said, "It's just the 4th level of energy refinement." He had to admit, the feeling of being adored and admired by his wives and children was quite pleasant. She believed that marrying Lu Miaoyun to Lu Chongqing was absolutely the right decision. She even started to become unconcerned about Lu Chongqing having a multitude of wives and concubines, because she had realized that Lu Chongqing was not as she had known, immersed in the pursuit of female company all day. In this half-year he had not neglected his talisman-making duties, and his performance only improved. Chapter 63. Managing the Spiritual Talisman Shop under Zoom? "Tongxing, have you broken through to the 4th level energy refinement?" At this moment, 4th Elder noticed the change in spiritual power emanating from Lu Changsheng's body, her face revealing a surprised yet delighted expression. Although Lu Chongqing had used the aura concealment technique to hide his internal spiritual power, his mastery of the technique was not profound, merely at the stage of basic proficiency. After all, once he had learned the basics of these fundamental spells, he did not spend too much time or thought on them. As 4th Elder possessed the strength of the 9th level energy refinement, with careful observation she could easily discern the changes in Lu Changsheng's cultivation level. "Yes, Chongqing just broke through to the 4th level energy refinement yesterday, so I came today to inform grandmother." Lu Chongqing nodded and responded aloud. Good, I didn't expect you to break through to the 4th level energy refinement so quickly, much faster than grandmother had anticipated," 4th Elder said as she sat down next to the chair, smiling. "Tell me, grandmother," said Lu Chongqing, somewhat puzzled. "What could someone at his level of 4th level energy refinement do? Our Lu family has a spiritual talisman shop in 9 Dragons Market, and I've been thinking of having you manage it," 4th Elder stated. "Manage the spiritual talisman shop?" Lu Chongxing was somewhat astonished upon hearing this. Being a cultivation family, the Lu family naturally had various sources of income. For instance, the mountainous green spiritual bamboo and Bu spiritual bamboo were among the family's main sources of income. The spirit rice, spirit vegetables and spiritual medicine that they usually cultivated were also sold in the marketplaces in excess of their personal needs. That's why the Lu family also had their own shops in some marketplaces. He knew Nine Dragons Market was a large marketplace relatively close to Qingzhou Mountain, established by the dominant power in the area, the Qingyun sect. Having been with the Lu family for so many years and entering its core circles, he had come to understand much more about the family's affairs. Families like the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain, although they claimed to be independent powers, were actually under the rule of the Qingyun sect. Every year they were obliged to offer a tribute to the Qingyun sect. This was also why Lu Yuanding had been able to go to the Qingyun sect's mountains and recruit discarded disciples for marriage alliances. If you were a power with no connections to the Qingyun sect, would you dare to do such a thing? Back when the Lu family of Qingzhou Mountain and the Qin family of Red Leaf Valley fought over the ownership of a spirit stone mine, both families' foundation establishment ancestors had taken action. In the end, it was an elder of Qingyun sect who intervened to mediate and called a halt to the conflict, telling both families to cease their fight. Of course, the final verdict was that the Qingyun sect took 40% of the mine's profits, leaving the remaining 60% to be evenly split between the Lu family and the Qin family at 30% each. When Lu Chongxing first heard about this, he couldn't help but sigh. Truly, power was the supreme rule. The Lu and Qin families fought to the death over the spirit stone mine's profits, and then the Qingyun sect simply came and took away 40%, with the two families daring not say a word. The fact that this spiritual talisman shop was located in Nine Dragons Market also indicated that among the Lu family's numerous shops, it was quite a decent one. Unexpectedly, Fourth Elder was actually suggesting to put such a shop under his management. Yes, I had previously left Miaoga in charge of the spiritual talisman shop, Fourth Elder confirmed. But as you know, Miaoga has now been promoted to middle-grade talisman master and is preparing to charge at the 7th level energy refinement, so she really doesn't have the time or energy to spare. That's why I thought of letting you learn to manage it, she continued. Your grandmother was somewhat apprehensive about you before, but now that you've broken through to the 4th level energy refinement, she feels much more at ease. Consider it a form of practice. Once you're familiar with it, grandmother will hand over the management of the spiritual talisman shop to you directly. The tasks are quite simple. Keep an eye on the shop, replenish stock every month and guide the apprentices occasionally. During this period, your grandmother will also provide you with an additional stipend. The Fourth Elder picked up the tea, took a gentle sip and spoke slowly. In the Lu family, apart from Lu Chongxing, there are a total of 3 talisman masters. Her Lu Miaoga, and a Lu family disciple who had recently advanced to an elementary talisman master. Now Lu Miaoga needs to concentrate on talisman making and spend time cultivating. She simply doesn't have much leisure time to manage the shop. That Lu family disciple has only just become an elementary talisman master, clearly not suitable. And Lu Chongxing is not only a middle-grade talisman master but also her grandson-in-law. She has been quite satisfied with his performance over the past 6 months, essentially recognizing Lu Chongxing as one of her own. So she thought of entrusting the shop to Lu Chongxing. That would spare them the trouble of hiring a talisman master to preside over the shop. And it would also give Lu Chongxing a chance to get involved with the Lu family business, to gain experience and to have a look around outside. After hearing the Fourth Elder's words, Lu Changsheng's first impulse was to refuse. He just wanted to live a stable and low-key life in the Lu family. But with the Fourth Elder putting it that way, it would be hard for him to refuse when he had no good reason to do so. After all, in a cultivation family like the Lu family, members enjoy the benefits and treatment the family provides. At a certain age and level of power, they all have to contribute to the family. People like Lu Miaoga, who are talented and also possess an aptitude for talisman making, and who is the daughter of the family head, are no exception. Since he married Lu Miaoyun, he was now considered a member of the Lu family and naturally could not avoid such matters. Moreover, The fourth elder intended to entrust him with managing the spiritual talisman shop, which was a kind gesture for his benefit. It would not only bring him an additional income but also put him in charge of some business. He would get to know more things and his status within the Lu family would also rise significantly. Chongqing will abide by grandmother's arrangements, Lu Chongqing said after a moment of thought, bowing in response. He also understood that it was unrealistic for him to expect to stay in the Lu family indefinitely without stepping outside or doing anything and still advance to foundation establishment. Since that was the case, he might as well agree. Nine Dragons Market, established by Qingyun's sect, was a large marketplace with foundation establishment great cultivators standing guard. Inside the market, few dared to cause trouble. If he were to manage the spiritual talisman shop, he wouldn't need to worry too much about danger. Furthermore, taking care of the shop would mean an extra source of income. And with the thousands of talismans he had stored, he would find it easier to sell them. When it came to buying materials for cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, it would be much more convenient. In the past 6 months, during his talisman trade with Hong Yi's appointed persons, he also asked Hong Yi to purchase materials on his behalf. But it was not only time-consuming, the materials he needed were not always available, and the back-and-forth communications were extremely inconvenient. If he went to Nine Dragons Market himself, buying whatever materials he wanted in the future would become very convenient. The only downside was that life in Nine Dragons Market wouldn't be as comfortable as it was now. Without the benefits of a second-grade spiritual vein and his wives not by his side, he would fall behind in childbearing. However, if he went to the market, he could also look into taking a few fairies with spiritual roots as concubines. After all, when it comes to having children, especially those with spiritual roots, taking concubines is necessary. Perhaps his useless peach blossom goo might prove to be somewhat effective. At the moment, Lu Chongqing felt that he hadn't encountered any romantic luck simply because he never left the house. Thus the peach blossoms couldn't find their way to him. Alright, then it's settled. When Miaoge returns in a few days, you'll go with her, the fourth elder agreed with a smile. Yes, grandmother. Lu Chongqing nodded in agreement. Afterwards, he took 2 boxes of spirit fruit pastries back home from the fourth elder's house. Chapter 64. The hard-working Li Feiyu understood. One after returning home, Lu Chongqing spoke to his wives and concubines, including Lu Miaoyun and Chu Zhenjin, about his plans to travel to Nine Dragons Market in some time. His wives and concubines reacted with mixed feelings upon hearing this news. They were pleased that Lu Chongqing was taking responsibility for the family's enterprise, which was a good thing and demonstrated the Lu family's esteem for him. The worry stemmed from the fact that Lu Chongqing would be away from home for a long while, which was quite hard for them to bear. The Nine Dragons Market is not far from Qingzhou Mountain. When the time comes, I can return home once a month just like the young miss. Once your husband gets acquainted there, I will take you out for a visit too, Lu Chongqing said to his wives and concubines. He had always found life in Qingzhou Valley somewhat dull and boring. The wives and concubines naturally felt the same. Therefore, if it turned out to be relatively stable in Nine Dragons Market, he thought of bringing a few of his wives and concubines over to stay and have fun as a way to unwind. Thank you, husband. Thank you, husband. The women were very happy to hear this. Husband, take Xiaoqing with you when you go, suggested Lu Miaoyun. That way you'll have someone to look after you. Lu Miaoyun spoke up to Lu Chongqing at this point. I'm a grown man, I don't need anyone to look after me. Besides, you need Xiaoqing to serve you right now, he replied with a wave of his hand indicating he didn't need her to come. Husband, just take Xiaoqing with you. If I can't accompany you, let Xiaoqing be by your side, please. Lu Miaoyun immediately bit her tender lip, her large watery eyes gazing at Lu Chongqing. At the same time, she gently shook his arm while leaning against him, cooing sweetly in a tender and charming voice. All right, I'll take her just as you wish, Yuner. Lu Chongqing had always been a man to yield to gentleness rather than force. Seeing his wife's coquettish pleading, he indulgently agreed right away. He guessed that Lu Miaoyun wanted him to take Xiaoqing not only for her company but also to have someone keep an eye on him. to prevent him from flirting with other women outside and bringing back a flock of women. However, Lu Chongqing didn't mind. He felt it would be fine to take Xiaoqing along. It is easy to go from frugality to luxury but difficult to go from luxury to frugality. He had been served by others for years and would indeed feel unaccustomed in a place without someone to serve him. Having his own person by his side would be convenient. Moreover, if he really wanted to take additional concubines, it would make no difference whether Xiaoqing was with him or not. But let's first see what the situation is like over there before deciding. We don't even know what it's like right now, Lu Chongqing said, pinching his wife's cheek. After all, he was going there for business. Bringing a maidservant without knowing anything about the situation would seem as if he were going for pleasure rather than business, and it would leave a poor impression. Seeing her husband agree, Lu Miaoyun immediately gave a sweet and slightly naive smile. She also understood that preventing her husband from taking new concubines was impossible. But as a woman and a wife, it wasn't possible to just watch and do nothing either. That night, knowing that Lu Chongqing would leave home in a few days, all his wives and concubines lovingly attended to him with tender care. After 6 months of cultivating the 100 refinements treasure body art, nourishing himself with dietary delicacies and spiritual wine, as well as breaking through to the 4th level energy refinement, Lu Changsheng's combat abilities had also greatly increased. However, faced with the devoted affections and relentless attentions of his wives and concubines, Lu Chongqing was still overwhelmed. He even suspected that his wives were using this method to remind him not to flirt or take new women in 9 Dragons Market. Once I get to 9 Dragons Market, I should put in more effort to complete the 100 refinements treasure body technique as soon as possible, he thought. Otherwise, if I return home every month, I won't be able to withstand it, and I'll have no face to take concubines or bring new women back home. Lu Chongqing lay on his bed, silently musing. The following day, Lu Chongqing suddenly remembered his transaction of talismans with Hong Yi. Every 3 months, Hong Yi would send someone to trade talismans, and there was a little over a month left until the next trade. If he went to 9 Dragons Market, he very likely wouldn't be at home when the time came. So Lu Chongqing informed Lu Miaoyun about the talisman trade and gave her 30 pre-drawn talismans. He told her to handle the trade with Hong Yi's envoy when they arrived. Selling some low-quality talismans to a friend isn't something worth hiding. The Lu family knows, then they know, Hong Yi thought to himself. Moreover, Hong Yi felt that the Lu family might have known about his affair for quite some time. Upon hearing this, Lu Miaoyun was very clever in her response, assuring Hong Yi that he could rest easy. Afterward, Hong Yi went to Qingzhou Villa, thinking of having a chat with Li Feiyu to see how he had been recently. However, when he arrived at Li Feiyu's home, Li Feiyu was not there. Li Feiyu's wife told Hong Yi that Li Feiyu had gone farming. Surprised by this news, Hong Yi was astonished. In the past 6 months he had mastered the breeding process and methods for these black hogs and wished to raise 2 on his own. But the cost for 1 piglet was 6 spirit stones, and he currently did not have enough initial capital, only managing to spare 4 spirit stones. Upon hearing this, Hong Yi couldn't help shaking his head, thinking how determined Li Feiyu was. Not only was he juggling his role as the spiritual butcher and spirit planter, but he was also planning on raising 2 spiritual hogs. However, he also knew that with Li Feiyu's current circumstances, hard work and effort were his only options for cultivation. Right away, Hong Yi took out 20 spirit stones and lent them to Li Feiyu. Hong Yi's personal income at the Lu family amounted to roughly 10 spirit stones monthly. In addition, completing his talisman-making tasks granted him another 10 spirit stones each month, and he could often turn in an extra 3 to 5 talismans for about another 10 spirit stones. Moreover, every 3 months, Hong Yi could also expect over 40 spirit stones from Hong Yi. Therefore his current income was quite substantial. So he was able to lend some spirit stones to help Li Feiyu. But Li Feiyu only borrowed 10, stating that 10 would be sufficient, and he could repay them once the spiritual rice from the spirit fields was ready to be harvested. Hong Yi didn't say much in response, understanding Li Feiyu's character. Later, after having a meal at Li Feiyu's place, the 2 men enjoyed some spiritual wine and chatted before Hong Yi took his leave. Although after breaking through to the middle stage of energy refinement, one can employ a middle-grade flying sword, many cultivators at the late stage of energy refinement cannot afford, or are unwilling to purchase, a middle-grade magical instrument. Like those 3 robber cultivators he had killed on Bullhead Mountain, they had the cultivation levels of the 6th and 7th level of energy refinement, yet they all wielded lower-grade magical instruments. And this green-face sword was clearly not just an ordinary middle-grade magical instrument. Its price was likely around 200 spirit stones. "Thank you, grandmother." Lu Chongqing expressed his thanks and picked up the magical sword. It was slightly heavy and cool to the touch. The scabbard was entirely green like jade. The scabbard bore gold inlaid patterns and the tassel was gold, clearly decorative additions made afterward. Magical swords like this one can generally change in size according to one's will. Seeing this style of magical sword, he knew that it was not in the same league as the flying sword he had obtained from Bullhead Mountain. It was clearly a high-end flying sword. Because with flying swords the most common feature is sharpness, practicality. Only high-end flying swords would have effort put into their appearance. Lu Chongqing pulled the sword from its sheath. The blade was entirely silver-white, but the surface had a faint halo of green gold flowing over it, the cold light flickering. The 4th elder smiled and directly opened the second brocade box. Within the second box lay an exquisite and majestic vestment robe, with the light shimmering over its sky-blue fabric, edged with gold embroidery. For managing the shop on this outing, you should dress well to reflect your status. This is a middle-grade magical robe with a total of 7 magical array effects: size adjustment, dust avoidance, springtime warmth, wind transformation, concealment, spirit concentration, and body protection. I won't go into detail about the first 3 effects, as they are similar to the ones on your current Qingzhu robe. Wind transformation allows fierce winds to be softened into gentle breezes. Grandma has applied for an iron feather eagle from the family for you, so your future travels to and from the 9 Dragons marketplace will be much more convenient. The wind transformation effect of this robe will allow you to ride the iron feather eagle without being affected by strong winds, without the need to expend mana to resist them. Grandma knows you don't like to show off. The concealment function allows the robe's radiance to be contained, making it appear like ordinary clothing and not attracting attention. The spirit concentration effect can gather a small scope of concentrated spirit energy, which is somewhat helpful for your cultivation. Back when Lu Chongqing was on Bullhead Mountain, after killing 3 robber cultivators, his total gains amounted to roughly 500 spirit stones, which was already a considerable fortune. But at this moment, the 4th elder directly presented him with gifts worth over 700 spirit stones, a truly grand gesture. "Thank you, Grandma." This gift made Lu Chongqing somewhat moved. He bowed and earnestly said, indeed it was because he had value that the Lu family and the 4th elder before him treated him so well. But many things are judged by actions rather than intentions, and at least the kindness of the 4th elder before him was genuine. All this Lu Chongqing remembered in his heart. We're all family here. There's no need for thanks when a grandmother gives something to her grandson, the 4th elder said gently to Lu Chongqing. Upon hearing this, Lu Chongqing looked at the 4th elder and showed a sincere smile, nodding his head and saying, "Yes, Grandma." "Chongqing, do you recognize these 3 talismans?" The 4th elder pointed to the 3 talismans in the brocade box and asked. "You're tuning in to the Zhou Xian's Legacy YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.